All right, we'll call the meeting to order, 7:01 PM. Can we have a roll call, please?
John Sarantopoulos,
Here.
Brian Card,
Here.
Keith Thurlow is absent with notification, Virgil Lorenz,
Here.
Matthew Wendorf,
Here.
Mike Hiku.
Here.
That's it.
Excellent, thank you.
Yeah, Hugo.
So Mike Huco will be seated tonight, so as a voting member. So, no agenda addendums on the table, correct? Excuse me. Item 4, citizens' comments on items not subject to public hearing. I just want to let the public know at this point in time, there are a few items on our agenda that will not be heard tonight at the public hearing. Specifically, if you're looking at our agenda, Section 6, items 3, 4, 5, and 6, and I can briefly tell you what they are. It's zone text change application for Jamin Patel regarding a zone text change that would allow redemption centers and allowed permanent use in the borough. Zone map change application 23-1321 at Christine McGannon and Johnny DeLuca, Jack Helfgott for 543 Warwigan Road. That's a light industrial change to the zoning. Special permit application 23-1322, JPF Rentals LLC, 18 Ware Road and 21 Pineville Road, medium density, approximately 4 acres to construct 14 new single-family rental units. And then zone text change application 22-1300, Town of Killingly, Planning and Zoning Commission, zone text change regarding Business Park District. Unfortunately, those did not make the legal notices in time, therefore we cannot open those public hearings tonight. So we apologize if you showed up for those hearings tonight, but they will be held on Monday, November 20th, 2023. So so if you have a question, or again, you can speak up at the podium if you like, but again, we're not hearing those applications with anything specific on those. Again, I would recommend you save that to the public hearing, but feel free to come up and ask a question if you have that, sir. That's fine. Just for the record, so we have it, can you just give us your name and address?
Sure. My name is Doug Sanford. I own 67 Pineville Road. I just want to make sure that that means that there will be no movement if we leave on the things that you just said will not be spoken about tonight.
There's none. The application's received and accepted and scheduled for a public hearing November 20th.
And on November 20th, if myself and my neighbors come back, we'll be able to speak freely about our concerns with that, or do we have to sign
At that
ahead?
point in time, we'll have a public hearing, and then the public will be allowed to speak freely on that application. At first, the applicant will present, commission will ask questions, and then we'll open the floor to public hearing.
Okay, and you
So-
don't have to know what our comments are or anything. We're just welcome to come in, come up, talk.
Correct. Yep.
Awesome.
We highly recommend, it's easier for us if you submit public comments in writing. I mean, so we can follow them and follow through on them versus taking our notes, but again, you don't have to do that.
Okay, and public comments in writing would be addressed to Town Hall, to Planning and Zoning, to...
Planning and Zoning Commission, yep,
Okay.
or to Anne Marie. Yep,
Yeah,
either
Planning
one.
and Zoning Commission, and there are ways to see, it's on the front page of the agenda on how to do the public comments if you so to choose to bring them in.
Awesome.
You can also, please feel free to bring your public comments with you, if you want to write them out, and then you can give us a copy at that point.
Okay.
Yeah, no, there's no formal thing. It could be handwritten notes, just give
And,
copies.
I
Yeah.
handed out a bunch of flyers. Everybody followed me here, and now it's postponed.
So we
I
apologize.
appreciate what you guys do, so. Thank you.
Yep. Yeah, but you're all more than welcome to stay because it's a very exciting meeting. So, yeah, pass. So, hard, not just a pass, but a hard pass. Wow. I tried. We do like an audience. So, we'll give a minute for everybody to leave the room. You're fine. You're fine.
It wasn't your fault. You don't have to apologize.
Ed Grandelski, Upper Maple Street, also town council member. Just a couple of comments in general, maybe about the regs. Sidewalks. Sometimes sidewalks go in subdivisions, sometimes they don't. But if we put a sidewalk in, it should be out of the way of the debris from the snowplow, especially if we're building brand new. We have regulations that say you've got to shovel your sidewalk from snow, but if we build and throw it in somebody's face and let the snow from the snowplow go in there, shame on us. Another thing, snow shelf in cul-de-sacs. I don't know what we've got. We've got to do something. We spend more time in cul-de-sacs in the snow plowing arena when time is of the essence. So if they can just aim it to a snow shelf, we'd have half a chance. We don't have to go back with a payloader for time immemorial. Oh, we blocked somebody's mailbox, we blocked their driveway, we did this and that. If there's a designated snow shelf in the right place, screw the developer, it's got to be in the right place for the highway department to do their job. There's so many places that everybody wants to get out when it's snowing out, and they can't be everywhere at once. So we got to give them half a chance. So if we can designate a good snow shelf in the cul-de-sacs or anywhere else that we're plowing, when any new development that we're doing, we need a place so that the snow goes, that doesn't bother somebody, and it's ease of maintenance for us. I don't know if you guys get involved with, when utilities are existing sidewalks, maybe that's not your issue, but it seems like when CL&P changes a pole, they leave the existing pole in place, and they plop a bigger diameter pole right in the middle of the sidewalk. I hear comments from Eversource or whatever, oh, well, we have to do this, but now we have a sidewalk where a person in a wheelchair or anybody can't stay on the sidewalk because the utility pole is, they just take it for granted that they can put it anywhere they want. And this is absolutely ridiculous. They say they have a right of way. Well, I don't know about that. We give them the right to use all these areas. And I think we should be more forceful with them.
Ed, can I interrupt?
Sure.
I think over the decades that I've been sitting here, it's like planning and zoning has almost no power to influence what the power company does.
Well, I'm just,
Am I right?
yeah,
Yeah.
I just got to make a point.
Oh,
I
okay, so
appreciate, yes, no.
You're venting, and that's okay.
Well, that's part of it, and if there is any iota that you guys can do anything, because then it's gonna fall on Dave, and he may need some help in that regard. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else for citizens' comments? Not anything on the agenda? Okay.
Good evening. Paul Rollinson, 11 Weeks Lane, Dayville. It's been brought to my attention that one of the rules you have now for a subdivision on a budding property, you do not have to notify abutters unless there's a public hearing. I'm making a suggestion that you do so in writing, especially on Weeks Lane and around the lake. It's seasonal, so there are people that are going to go down there and they're not going to see the signs that are out. So unless they're notified in writing, they're never going to even know about it. Specifically, the one that's being subdivided has 9 seasonal properties on it. So there may be some people that don't even know what's been requested. That's all. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Anybody else? Nope, there being none. Okay, thank you. Any commission staff or anybody want to respond to anything? Nope. Okay. Good thing I brought glasses tonight. Public hearings, so public hearings continued. We are at special permit application 23-1314, CBD Killingly LLC, Dominic Capianato, 536, 42, 552 Hartford Pike, blah, blah, blah. 700 special permit.
Hey everyone, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, give me 1 second. I'll pull up a presentation and then introduce myself. All right, and just let me know if everyone can see my presentation.
Yes, it's up.
Perfect, okay. So good evening, members of the commission. For the record, my name is Luke Morrow. I am a senior project manager with Soli Engineering office in Monroe, Connecticut. I'm a professional engineer in the state of Connecticut and also professional traffic operations engineer. We're here tonight just for the continuation of the public hearing for the proposed commercial development at 536 to 552 Hartford Pike in Killingly on behalf of the applicant CPD Killingly LLC. So just wanted to go through high level, talk about what's occurred since we last presented to you. It was in August. We had submitted a letter requesting an extension for the September hearing. As many of you are aware, this proposal formerly had a connection to the back of the site through Owen Bell Park that would essentially connect to Town Farm Road with access to the traffic signal at the intersection of Town Farm Road and Hartford Pike. So at the Town Council meeting on September 12th, public was heard, and ultimately Town Council denied the applicant's request to provide that connection through Owen Bell Park with access to Town Farm Road. So we need some time to kind of review our plans, make some revisions to the plans and traffic assessment to account for the removal of that driveway connection through Owen Bell Park. So what we submitted to everyone, we'll go through quickly the changes tonight, was a revised site plan, which, as I mentioned, removes the driveway connection through Owen Bell Park. If you can see my, I'll try to zoom in here for everyone. The former connection is over here, just to the north of the bank, connecting from Owen Bell Park to the northeast corner of our development. In addition to that, the change to remove that connection to Owen Bell Park, there were some driveway modifications proposed, or proposing now two full movement driveway intersections onto Hartford Pike, as also as a condition of, as a result of the removal of that connection to the park to allow for additional access in and out of the site from Hartford Pike. Some of the other changes that were made based on the comments we received by the commission and the public at the meeting in August. There was a request for sidewalks with ADA ramps and crosswalks along the frontage. Originally, we were recommending that the connection be made, pedestrian connection be made through Owen Bell Park. However, since that has been removed, we have provided a sidewalk, as you can see, along the frontage of the site on Hartford Pike. Most of it is contained within the right-of-way, but there are some spots where the right-of-way is limited and it does go onto private property, so easements would be required in those instances. And I believe it was discussed at length at the last hearing. However, these off-site improvement measures, driveways, sidewalks, crosswalks, ultimately are at the discretion and review of the Connecticut DOT. So the plans have been submitted for their review, but ultimately they will review and have jurisdiction over the improvements within the right-of-way there. Some other requests, revisions that were made based on comments we received. I know there was concerns regarding some of the screening along the west side of the site, to our neighbor to the west. So what we were able to do is we were able to kind of refine the grading of our stormwater ponds. We looked at the ability to infiltrate some of the water and kind of reduce that footprint and pull the slopes back down a little bit. So we have now a wider, flatter area for a buffer. So we have extended the evergreen buffer proposed along the western property edge and then extending along the northern property side line as well. And we're also proposing to install a 6-foot-high solid white vinyl fence for additional screening. I know some of the neighbors had concerns of visual, sound implications, whatnot, from the development. So with that 6-foot-high white vinyl fence and that thick row of evergreen plantings, that should adequately screen the development from the review from view of that abutting multifamily residential structure. Additionally, a couple minor tweaks were made. A comment from Anne Marie, we discussed on Friday. She wanted to see, we had a ADA parking space on the west side here that was associated with the electric vehicle parking. So we just moved that, that crosshatch up and relocated the spot so that you have a more straight shot of a crosswalk, if you will, from that ADA parking stall straight to the front of the building, less of a roundabout path for those who need ADA access from that parking spot. And additionally, we added one additional parking spot, as Anne Marie had requested, in front of the medical office building. So there'll be three ADA spaces along the front of the building, some in front of each of those medical office buildings instead of the two we had formerly proposed. The last item that's not captured on this rendering, but I can just talk through quickly, is formerly we had a sanitary connection located within that formerly proposed driveway connection into Owenville Park. There's a sanitary trunk line that flows through the park and then out to, eventually out to Town Farm Road. However, since that access has been eliminated from the plan, in talking with the town manager and the town engineer, we agreed it made more sense for that sanitary connection for our development to now occur within Hartford Pike. So the sanitary main will now connect within the public right of way in Hartford Pike rather than that connection being made within Owenville Park. Generally speaking, that kind of is a high-level overview of all the changes that were made based on the vote from town council and the comments we received previously from commission members and also from the public. And we're here to answer any questions anyone may have. Thanks.
All right, thank you. So I believe the town engineer provided some additional comments too. Were those all addressed, Dave? They were? Okay.
Yes, we did receive comments late today, and I can pull them up for everyone to see on the stream. Nothing quite too substantial. He's asking, for Connecticut DOT's comments and then the final approval, permit approval for the driveway work, any sidewalk work, and then any drainage work within the right of way. I think we told you when we came in August, we had submitted, I believe it was August 4th, our original submission to DOT. We still haven't received any preliminary comments back, going back 2 months, but we have subsequently provided them with our revised plans and traffic report for their continued review. So with the understanding with Dave that when it comes in, we will provide them to him. But it is our experience with DOT that a lot of times they will not provide formal comments until planning and zoning has acted on the application. So the few drainage comments he had is a box culvert that kind of runs through the middle of our site from Owenville Park. That's going to be rerouted as a condition of construction for this development. So he'd asked that we just remove that stone box culvert, which we're going to have to do because it goes into the building footprint anyway. He noted there might be an existing catch basin in the proximity of our western driveway, which he's correct. So we're proposing to probably remove that and construct a new catch basin in that area. He asked that once approved, that we get a language, an easement on a plan, and also language for right to drain, because that drainage line, as discussed, is for drainage from Owenville Park that travels through our site and then down south of Hartford Pike. So we would provide an actual easement with language to the town to continue draining through our property through the relocated box culvert. And then just some other construction-related issues. When we get to point for construction, we can talk through sanitary sewer connection details. He wanted a call out to modify the concrete strength of 4,000 PSI. I believe we're calling out 3,000 PSI on the sidewalks right now. That's an easy change. He just, for the sanitary sewer details, he wants to see warning tape. Not an issue for us to provide that. And then comments 7 and 8 demonstrate the turning radii for emergency vehicles. We did submit that for review as part of our package. I think they may have just missed that, but we can certainly provide that again to them to review. But it does show that the fire truck can make the movement into and out of the site and around the building. We also did provide grease trap sizing and installation details, but we can follow up with them to make sure they're aware that they are contained within our drawing set. And that's basically the extent of Dave's comments we got this afternoon.
All right, thank you. And can you touch upon briefly your supplemental memo on the traffic impact study?
Yeah, so basically, the supplemental memo, as you guys are aware, there was some traffic that we were proposing to utilize Town Farm Road, the signal there, and, take the back way through Owenville Park. So we redistributed our traffic volumes to account for 2 full movement driveways on Hartford Pike. Our analysis indicates that, with those two full movement driveways, the intersections along the Hartford Pike corridor still operate at background and acceptable levels of service as if the development were not to be constructed. They'll operate in a similar fashion. And then the driveways themselves will operate at acceptable levels of service D with a couple car queue into the site. So there wouldn't be any adverse impact on circulation within the site with that driveway orientation as well.
All right, thank you. Just a quick note, so I think your traffic report, that's supplemental to your traffic report, correct, that you submitted?
Correct.
All right,
So I think there was 7 or 8 intersections studied altogether as part of our original traffic report. The only changes as a result of this removal of the driveway connection in Owenville Park would be at our 2 site driveways and then the intersection of Town Farm Road at Hartford Pike. So this memo is just limited to those 3 intersections because that's where all the changes would occur.
yeah, does that memo need to be stamped to be added to your report?
We can certainly, we don't typically for a letter report, but if it moves the commission, we can certainly, for the record, stamp that, as a final condition of approval and submit that for the record. That's not a problem.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Commission members, any comments, questions for Mr. Morrow? Go ahead, Mike.
On the, mostly on.
Just make sure you're at the mic because he's online, so he's got to hear you.
Mostly on the traffic report, you said it's basically the same. I think your study says that it remains the same as previously. If you start looking at the numbers between the original one of June 14th to this one of October, the numbers have changed quite a bit. If you just look at the section that says bill on 2025 bill in the AM, PM, and Saturdays, the numbers have increased quite a bit. If you take from the original traffic impact, those numbers, and go to the bill to the 25 AM, PM, and Saturday, the AM eastbound went up 11.9%. The westbound only went up 1.1%. And I'm only looking at the Kinley Common, Town Farm, Hartford Pike area. The PM eastbound went up 7.9%, westbound 1%, Saturdays eastbound 19.9%, and the westbound 3.6%. That's kind of a drastic number increase.
Are you talking about changes in levels of service, in delay? Is that what you're referring to?
Vehicles per hour. In the vehicles per hour.
Okay, I see. So you're saying, so the number of vehicles per hour generated by the development is exactly the same as initial report, only those volumes are redistributed, instead of coming in and off of Town Farm Road to account for that traffic, for that connection through Owenville Park. They had to be redistributed, to our 2 site driveways on Hartford Pike. So I'm thinking what you're referring to is that there's an increase on the mainline traffic volumes going eastbound or westbound because traffic can't make the turn onto Town Farm Road to access our site anymore. So rather than being left turns and right turns into and out of Town Farm Road, they're just through movements along Hartford Pike, and they just continue on for that additional, call it 500 to 700 feet till they get to our site driveways. So, in that regard, there was, changes in, the vehicular volumes, in the orientation they're kind of going, eastbound, westbound Hartford Pike and not utilizing Town Farm Road, and just accessing the site, at that point. But, in regards to the analysis, and I don't know if everyone's got it in front of them, but to direct everyone's attention to, table 1, the peak hour level service summary, you'll see between background to build, generally, I think, and I'm doing the calculations off the top of my head, but generally, we're looking at very minimal increases in delay, and no changes to the levels of service, meaning that there is adequate capacity at that signal at Hartford Pike and Town Farm Road to accommodate those additional through movements without a significant impact to the traffic at that intersection.
Yeah, but you're adding, per your numbers, you're adding, adding traffic to that Hartford Pike, Town Farm Road, and Kinley Common area, that's intersection. Per your numbers from the original to the 2025 build in the 3 sections, AM, PM, and Saturdays. That's it.
Yeah, so the increase in traffic as a result of this project is about, well, let me make sure I get the exact numbers here, bear with me. It was about, 181 new trips in the morning, about 150 new trips during the PM peak hour, and about 300 new trips on Saturday during the peak hour. So those trips were all accounted for in the initial study, except there was a portion of those trips mostly going westbound from the highway, coming off the highway and then taking the right onto Town Farm Road, and then the left into Owen Bell Park and accessing the site from the rear. Those trips have now been reassigned so that they would go straight through westbound, through the intersection of Town Farm Road, and then taking a right into the Killingly Commons driveway. And then alternately, we're exiting traffic heading back towards the highway, instead of coming out the driveway connection through Owen Bell Park and then taking a left on Town Farm Road onto Hartford Pike, because they can't make that movement anymore. They're simply taking a left out of these driveways and then proceeding through eastbound on Hartford Pike towards the highway. So instead of taking that left from Town Farm onto Hartford Pike, they're just proceeding through. It should be the exact same number of cars, just a redistribution with more through movements and left turning movement, and less turning movements.
Your
to and
chart,
from Town Farm.
your charts doesn't show the same numbers from June to October. In 5 months, there's a difference.
So Mike, just so I'm clear, when what table are you referring to in June? Is it post-development numbers?
No, it's the traffic impact.
No, yeah, but which table there? I didn't bring that report with me, but is it the
The
post?
same table, the 205, 2025 bill, AM, PM, and Saturdays for Killing Commons, Town Farm Road, and Hartford Pike. So if I just, on the original one, you estimated vehicles per hour was 326. In your new report, it's 365. That's an increase.
I'm not quite sure. Can you tell me what figure you're referring to?
On the lanes for Kinley Common Drive, Town Farm Road, and Hartford Pike, the original ones in the AM for 2025 AM, now,
Is it the background AM or post-development? Just so we're looking at the same chart, just want to make sure. So up in the top right of that sheet, does it say 2025 background or 2025 build?
2025 build.
Okay. So now keep it just from, I'm not going to explain it for the applicant, but the builds will be different because the traffic's rerouted, as he's saying. So the traffic was going through Town Farm Road, coming in the back entrance,
That-
right? So now the traffic goes straight down 101. So when you're looking at the builds at the end of the day, the routing will be different because it's now using 101.
But by the title, it's in the intersection of the
Oh,
Kinley Commons.
Absolutely, yeah, but it's going, it's
gonna
going
be
straight or
different.
turning is the difference, right? So that's what he's gotta explain, so I just wanna make sure we're talking the same table. You're
Mhm.
talking a 2025 build table,
Yep,
right, from July to the one that was in the new report?
yep.
Okay. And which intersection?
Kinley Common Drive,
Yep.
Town Farm Road and Hartford Pike, page 12, oh, I got the original, this one's on, well, they all say page 1.
They all say page 1, so so you gotta look
The
at,
whole thing is page one?
Well, each
it,
one.
cause it's a one-page output.
The new one says 365.
I'm sorry, I'm not seeing where,
Traffic volume, vehicles per hour, eastbound says 365 on the new one.
okay, you're seeing figure 7, okay. So, yeah, so it was let me make sure. So it was 326 in the old.
Yep.
Because there was an increase, so, because we had, if you look at the right turn going from, the left turn going from Town Farm Road to Hartford Pike, that went from 52 left turns down to 14, which is a change of 37, 38 cars. So if you notice, that 52 cars got reduced to 14, and that 326 cars got increased to 365, which is what I was trying to explain. So inherently, the volumes on the main line on Hartford Pike went up because there was more turn movements that did not have to use Hartford Pike to access the site directly, because before we were directing them from Town Farm Road through Owen Bell Park. So when you balance it all out, it's the same number of cars going through that intersection, just instead of taking that turn to and from Town Farm Road, they're going through on Hartford Pike.
And you think that intersection can handle more traffic?
The intersection's
Or-
operating at a level of service, I believe it's level of service C. So, with the added traffic, associated with the development, it's still operating at the similar level of service that it is before the development comes online. There is adequate capacity, at that intersection, to handle that increase in traffic. And, ultimately, this is gonna be, as we discussed, this is gonna be reviewed and need to be approved by Connecticut DOT, not only for our two, driveway entrances, but also for any other impacts that may occur on the state highway system, which would be the whole, 101 corridor. So that is in the initial study and the supplement are in for their review. We have just not heard any comments back, from them. And it's also been, reviewed by, town engineering staff as well.
I'd be curious what the state says.
I would guess that there are plenty of parts of Connecticut where things are far more intense than they are right here.
Any other comments from Mike?
Nope.
Just want to make sure we got that question answered,
Yep.
so. I do think, yeah, I'm just looking at it myself, I think, yeah, it has to do with the traffic flow, because I saw that too. But it's just the flow going straight versus the back entrance that they had, so.
And just to further elaborate, I don't wanna, kick a dead horse, but, essentially, when there's through movements and you're reducing left turns, generally the signal operates, in theory, the signal operates better, generally speaking. So having the through movements instead of turn movements, normally that means that the signal operates, would operate under a better condition than it would if there were added turn movements. So, for what it's worth.
Then just for the record and for the commission to understand it, if you have table 1, I don't know if you have it available and you can pull it up from your supplemental report. If you want to explain your background versus your build levels and what those numbers mean.
Sure. Give me 1 second. I have to pull up from, okay. Bear with me. Okay, so So table one, so essentially, a high level, I guess, traffic engineering, explanation here. So, level of service, it defines, it's assigned a letter grade from A, which is basically operating with no delay at all, through a level of service, F, which is, extensive delays, signal or non-signalized intersection, has overcapacity, there's extensive delays, extensive queuing, whatnot. So, so the background conditions, and we can go through the site driveways quick, but there's nothing to compare to in the background condition because there is no, there's no site driveways, commercial site driveways there to begin with. So the site driveways in the build condition, AM and PM, and Saturday will operate what we consider acceptable levels of service. The numbers you see, so levels of service C and D, even up to an E, and in some cases even an F for an unsignalized driveway, could be considered acceptable, in high traffic locations. But for a level of service C and D in this case, and the number that's kind of shown in parentheses after it, on average during those peak periods when cars are leaving the driveway, we don't expect cars to experience more than average delay of, call it 17 to about 30 seconds exiting the development during those peak hour periods, which would be, by traffic engineering standards, will be considered acceptable. For the Hartford Pike Town Farm Road and the Killingly Commons driveway, we have a comparison here basically of the operating conditions in the 2025 background condition, which would be the build year of our facility without the facility actually coming online, compared to the 2025 build, which would be with our traffic volumes in place on the roadway network. And you can see here overall levels of service. So this is the average delay for all approaches during the peak hour periods. It ranges from a level of service B to C. For a signalized intersection overall in an area such as this, generally the DOT would find even level service D acceptable. E, you're starting to approach a point where the signal itself is approaching, or at least specific movements going through that intersection are approaching capacity. And then when you hit level service F, the signal itself is over capacity, and timing changes or geometric changes would be required. In this case, you can see generally we're operating overall, when you average all the movements of the signal, they are operating at an acceptable level of service of B or C. Generally, people that approach that intersection on average wait just about 30 seconds or so or less to get through that signal, no matter which approach you're coming from. There's going to be some approaches that are not as long. Some of them are going to be around 10, 20 seconds, depending on the period. Some of them will be longer, 35 to 40 seconds, depending on the period. But when you average out, the signal itself operates at an acceptable level of service of B or C. And again, even up to level of service D, which would be up to about, I believe, 55 seconds of average delay would be the threshold for level service D, and we're operating at a C. So, more than adequate capacity at this signal, in comparison to the background condition, everything will generally operate similar to as it does today.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thought that'd be helpful. Any other commissioners, comments, questions on anything?
Yeah, I have a comment.
All right, John, just make sure your mic's on, speak in, because he's on a computer, please.
First of all, I'm glad to see that sidewalk is in there. And as far as snow removal goes, I mean, either Killenly or the state of Connecticut is going to have to work that out. But the safety factor alone makes me glad that it's there. Will the state, when they consider the traffic flows, they have to approve what has just been presented? Do they also take into consideration that the highway is restricted from that point heading west, and what that will do with flows in either direction?
What do you mean? What's the restriction going west?
It's considerably narrower from that point heading west towards the railroad. than it is from that point heading over to 395. And I would imagine it's been widened in that area because of Killenly Commons going in. And now you've got, an expansion of the commercial zone right up to the edge of where that highway is still restricted. And that's my question. I mean, is the state going to be looking not only at the traffic figures, but at the road itself to make sure that it can
Yes,
handle what's
the
happening?
short answer to your question is yes. So the capacity analysis has to account for how many lanes there are, what the lane widths are, when it's an unsignalized driveway, how many lanes of traffic they have to cross. And it's done a computer model because, I can't tell you how many different factors that are associated with shoulder widths, design speeds, all that kind of stuff. Turning, average turning times for vehicles from a stop onto a state highway. So that's all included as part of the analysis that's done by our Synchro program. And ultimately, all those appendices that are attached, we have a 3-page memo with 40 pages of appendices. That's all kind of included in that model. And oftentimes the state will actually sometimes even ask for to see our model, our computer models that's set up so they can verify the accuracy as well. But to answer your question, yes. It'll account for speed, geometry, number of lanes, lane widths, all that stuff is all accounted for in the analysis in determining the overall, levels of service and delays experienced.
Okay,
Anything else, John?
no.
Okay, thank you. Virgo?
I'm fine.
Matt? Mike? Nothing else right now? Okay. I do have just one question on the sidewalk, and that's might be more for our commission members and our staff. I couldn't find anywhere in the rules that requires us to have a sidewalk for these developments. This is an optional thing at the request of the commission, correct? Yes. Okay. All right. Thank you. Anybody from the public like to speak to this application? Please just your name and address again for us, and make sure the mic's on so that it gets recorded and the applicant online can hear it, please.
I'm Kathleen Weiss, 514 Hartford Pike.
And just might want to slide that closer to you just so it picks it up. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. Like Mr. Sarantopoulos said, that road narrows from a 4+ lane in front of Killingley Commons down to 2 lanes. And the developer has not addressed the fact that people are going to be stopping to pull into this development, having to stop to let people out of the development. We're talking about an area on 101 that constantly has tractor trailers going 40 miles an hour plus. So that creates a real safety hazard in my mind. Not to mention, it's going to change the whole texture of that area. But I was baffled by the amount of information he came up with regarding the Town Farm Road intersection, 101 and Killingley Commons. That's a whole different animal. It's entirely different as you go beyond that section down to in front of where he has the proposed development and all of the other residential properties along that line. People have to pull in, they have to pull out. There's school buses that stop there. People are turning into Pleasant Street. So I don't understand when people are going in and out of this development. You're going to have people that are making deliveries. You're going to have a trash hauler going in and out. You're going to have patrons of all these the properties. I don't understand how he can act as if it doesn't have any impact at all, because it's going to have a tremendous impact on that whole section. So.
Okay. I just need to, how shall I say this? When the mall came in, those were all concerns. And yet, all of us go shopping there, and we get in and out all the time. So that, I understand that there are concerns, but if you compare the activity on that proposed site versus the mall, I go there every day, and probably you're there a lot also. And so I think that there's such a vast difference in scale in terms of what's being proposed that at this point, I don't feel that, my hair's not on fire because we all survived the traffic that's generated every day at the mall. So that's just,
But once again, that's 4+ lanes with a traffic light. So people can come and go very easily. Where this particular project is sited, there's nothing. You're gonna have 2 driveways, people turning in and people coming out. So the people that are traveling on 101 will have to stop for these people to either turn in or come out. So that's my concern.
okay.
Okay.
And as it is, when you try to turn into your own driveway, it's a hazard. When you try to pull out, sometimes you sit there for 5 minutes before you can pull out. The traffic is very, very heavy in that area, and this is gonna have a tremendous impact. And, I just don't understand how they can overlook the situation and act as if, it's not any different than over by Killingly Commons. It will be different. It's only 2 lanes.
I didn't understand that before, so
Yeah,
thank you.
if you drive down right past the bank, which is, I believe, 2 lots over from this development, that's when it narrows. All of a sudden, 2 lanes. So you have people that are flying down as they pass the Killingly Commons intersection. They're in the right lane, because you can only go straight if you're in the right lane. They're flying down trying to make that light. So when they're flying down that lane, and all of a sudden somebody in front of them wants to stop and turn into this development, you're gonna have rear end accidents, you're gonna have all kinds of problems.
Yep.
So I think it has a tremendous impact.
So ma'am, your point's taken, thank you. Just to keep it moving so we can get everybody to
Sure.
speak. If
Okay.
you have any other comments, we'd be
Okay.
happy to hear those, please.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Is the microphone working?
It should, yes.
My name is John LaBelle. I live at 57 Island Road, Dayville, Connecticut. The gentleman who turned off his screen,
I think that was us, not him.
the gentleman mentioned that,
Hold on, we just want to make sure he can hear and
Yeah, okay.
gets back on. I'm sorry, sir. So,
What, a new TV? No.
or just lack of activity. You didn't change the channel. Shut your TV off. Mr. Morrow, can you hear us? Oh, okay.
Yeah, his lips are moving, but we won't be able to hear him.
Okay. Oh, you won't? We can hand them out for you, sir. That's fine. We'll pass them around. Did you want to keep one? Did you need to keep one? Okay. 1, 2,
So this is one packet?
yes.
Okay.
Hey, John,
Thank you.
you want one? So, Mr. LaBelle, did you need this back?
yes, I do.
Can you, Matt, can you bring that?
Okay.
There you go. I gotta share with you. We're gonna share nice and close.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you be in charge, right?
Let me
Okay,
know.
so go ahead. Yep,
Okay,
sorry.
thank you. Thank you for the opportunity of addressing this project. I appreciate it and the time that everyone is taking to be here. The 55, did I understand that the gentleman to say that there was upwards of a 55-second wait to get onto the street? Does anyone know what the cycle time is on the light? Because I've been in that street where sometimes you'll back up from light to light and up into, almost into Zip's Corner. The traffic, unlike on Saturdays, Saturday mornings when people are running into Dunkin' Donuts to get a coffee, that backs up quite a bit too. So I hope that the statistics that Mike has brought up is looked at fairly closely. What I put together, and I'm sorry if it's kind of lengthy, this development is proposed to be situated adjacent to the most prominent park in Killingly. I'm concerned about the additional vehicular traffic these businesses will attract and will present to the traffic that at times already overwhelms this 101 area, and in particular because that 3 lanes goes down to 2, and sometimes people who are crashing through don't pay attention to people who are following the speed limit. I'm concerned that the utilization of this land runs contrary to the intention of the planned conservation and development by the town of Killingly attached. Now, I've attached sections of the plan of development just so you don't have to go hunting for them. It needs to address compliance with section 420 of the Killingly zoning regulations, as well as comply with the requirements of Connecticut State Statute 8-2 on the village districts, which I also have attached. Beyond safety concerns, upon reviewing the architectural aesthetic features of the proposed development, my opinion as an architect since 1979 is the exterior elements pay little to no reflection of the architecture of historic buildings past, present, and in the surrounding area. I feel that greater effort needs to be applied to presenting a design consistent with the neighborhood. It appears as though also that the statute require a separate architectural review by the commission of the town. And I have attached those regulations. The second page is in Article 3, taken from the Killingly zoning documents, which has definitions. Sometimes the word shall is defined differently than in these regulations. In these regulations, the word shall is defined as mandatory. In other words, must. So you cannot take in a paragraph and say, shall such and such, and then that the commission may modify. May, in that case, is not applicable. That, I'm sure that will come up in your discussions as to the applicability of these regulations. And I have numbered these pages so that on page 4 I illustrate, as part of the regulations, street side parking is not allowed. Therefore, the parking that they show in front of the building, according to statute, is not allowed under this zone. The other thing that would be interesting to see is the turning radius of a 50-foot trailer making a delivery on this site. When I look at the layout of the site plan, I didn't put a scale on it, I didn't try to draw it, but that looks very tight. On page 5, I note once again that these cookie cutter boxes need an architectural review. And I don't recall seeing any architectural buildings, residential or commercial. Even the bank has taken and respects the architecture of the neighborhood. I don't see anything in that neighborhood that looks like a number of boxes put together. I myself find it that the illustrations and the elevations disrespect the architecture of what is partially a historic district and partially made up of many buildings of historic character. And if you read the plan of development, there's a whole section that talks about how important that area historically has been. Page 6, you can read it. I mostly covered it. I'm not going to try to read everything that I put in here. And then I have attached the regulations, as in the Killingly zoning regulations, that talk about and support what I have just stated. I also have attached a portion of the state statutes that actually address what I have stated. And then in addition, I have attached portions of the Plan of Conservation and Development, which addresses cultural resources and the importance of preserving the integrity of historic, architectural, and architectural resources in order to protect the community's heritage for the education and enjoyment of current and future populations. I encourage everyone here to read the Plan of Development. It addresses many of these things that you have concerns for, especially safety. Thank you for your attention to this.
Thank you, sir.
And thank you for all the time that you put into all these things. I don't know if you people sleep at night because of the hours that you have to put in reading all this material.
That's how we sleep at night.
That's how you sleep at night. I know I fall asleep on it. Wake up with my pencil across some place where I didn't want it to be.
Yes. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Ed Grandelski, Upper Maple Street. John hit a lot of the issues that I was going to talk about, but I will still pursue them. One thing that I noticed was a 40-foot unloading area. So if there's only a 40-foot unloading area, this is precluding tractor-trailer deliveries. Now, everywhere I go with a food establishment, I'll sit at Zips having a coffee. 90% of the food deliveries are tractor-trailer. A couple of straight jobs, but mostly tractor-trailers. Plenty of room at Zips, okay, fine. I look across to Dunkin' Donuts and CVS, and I see a tractor-trailer parked right in front of Dunkin' Donuts, blocking everything. And then trying to make those turns and whatnot. It seems ridiculous. I'm a contractor, so when I look at this site, you don't want contractors driving in there. I mean, I drive a pickup truck with a 30-foot trailer. Where am I gonna park that? So I guess I can't get a coffee or I can't get a burger in this establishment. But the problem with that is I know I can't get in there, so I won't go. But I pity the guy, as the lady was talking earlier, if he's coming heading westbound from 395, goes through the light, and he's gonna try to make that turn, I pity the people behind him. And then if they're only a 40-foot spot to park, that's too short for a tractor trailer. So that's gonna encroach on cars coming around the back. So that traffic will be backed up. John was talking about compatibility with surrounding historic 19th century architectural buildings. Then there's state statutes to that effect that Then there's also supposed to be a architectural review board under the auspices of the Planning and Zoning Commission that shall look at the application and report to the commission within 30 days of receipt of the application. And then you guys can look at whatever happens with that. Then there's also, in the Killingly regs, talks about no parking in the front of any of these new buildings. I know, I see a lot of parking. 50% of the parking, maybe that's exaggerated, but there's a lot of parking in the front. But I guess another interesting thing is the radius. Well, I think the worst vehicle to go up there would be a fire truck. That's a straight scenario, like a tractor trailer maybe could make it around, but if a fire truck had to get in the back of that, I don't know what the length, Mr. Hugo might have more experience in that regard, but that's a big issue, and I think emergency vehicles, I don't know there was a comment about the presentation. I guess we'll have to get back to the gentleman or whatnot, but what size truck was used in the evaluation of the turning radius? I think that should be looked at. Do I have anything else? No, I guess that's all I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Al Weiss. My wife has already made some comments. We own most of the historic structures within that compound, going up Pleasant Street, and have for the best part of 100 years now. I would say 70 years or so. I'm 74 myself. We came up from the city to go to school, Marianapolis. And there was 5 kids in the family, so we took over the sales house, which was in disrepair at the time, brought it up to a very livable standard, and right now it's on my list of things that I'm painting. Right now I'm spending about thousands of dollars to paint the buildings in white, or something that's gonna blend. And I'm expanding the portfolio. Anything that's rough and on the market, I look to buy. And I own all the land now, or we own all the land, all the way up to the public school. So over a period of years, I would envision that in that whole block and up to the public school, you'll see some sort of housing. That's what the area kind of needs, is affordable housing. The Prims Mill is an example of what goes wrong when a wrong guy gets his hands on a piece of architectural beauty. And what we tried to do was preserve the architecture and bring it up to current codes so that nobody gets killed. Now, on that road, before they had any lighting whatsoever, like people turning lights on, there was a hit and run, and they never caught the guy that ran over a young girl. Dogs, cats, it's a routine. You're going to lose your animals if they're around for any length of time. Right now, we have a tremendous vandalism problem where I have a carriage house that I restored with my wife when one of the first projects I tackled, and that was burned to the ground because of improper control over what's taken place in the park. Matter of fact, that park should really be limited to residents of the community, especially when it comes to these big events like.
Mr. Weiss, could we keep it to this application, please, not the park or the other stuff? Because it's limited time here, and you're limited to 3 minutes, so I just want to keep you focused on this application, please.
Okay, well, that's fine.
Thank you.
All I'm saying is we're adding another building to the portfolio. We're gonna try to restore it and make it usable. And low density housing But to get out on 101, especially when people are driving by on motorcycles going 100 miles an hour, 80 miles an hour, or a bus is coming through there, it's not unusual to have to sit there for 4 or 5 minutes. Or if you're gonna pull into a driveway, you gotta be careful you don't get rear-ended. Now, already on this site, since the last meeting, we've got a situation where a guy got a flat tire, apparently at the light is where he picked up on it, pulled into where the catch basin was, he was changing the tire, and he almost got rear-ended by a tractor trailer. So it's a dangerous road. And in fact, I'm not adverse to development if it's done, but it should be done with architectural integrity in mind, okay? And depending on what you're gonna put there. In other words, some of those buildings have been used for a real estate office, you know, or, you know, basically a beauty salon, you know, where hair was being, because originally the Potter House, the guy that lived in it was Tommy Weaver, and his wife ran a beauty parlor out of the place. So all I could say is I'm gonna do what I can do for the remainder of my life to improve the streetscape and keep it nice. Just mowing the lawns is a chore. So I certainly don't want to see anything not happen so the community can move forward. But in other words, I was involved in that Owen Bell situation as well as the remediation of the major site.
Yes, so that was from you. You said that last meeting, so I don't mean to cut you off, but I just want to keep it new to this application.
That's
So,
fine. You
yep.
got any questions, I'll give you my opinion.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to get a copy back, because I was the one that did the original study for the historic buildings in the town of Killenly.
All right, thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
It's somewhere in your library.
Thank you, sir.
More likely the basement.
Hey, how's it going? Nick Weiss, 514 Hartford Pike.
Yes, sir.
So I'm right next door. I tried to get out of the driveway the other day in about 4, 5 o'clock traffic, and I literally sat there for 8 minutes trying to get out. Tractor trailers, like he's saying, going at least 50 miles an hour. I don't know who did I think he said Kevin Solly did the traffic study, right? He has interest in this project to go forward. Is there a third party that could maybe step in and give us a second opinion about what's going on there? And then maybe the state. And then my third point is, this is maybe our 4th meeting discussing the historic district, the importance of the design and everything. You guys still haven't come to us with any remediation in the designs to say, hey, we're gonna respect the historic district. So I think that's, shows the disinterest in the area that these guys are taking. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. Any other public comments? Being none? Okay. Any follow-up commission member questions? No. Mr. Morrow, any comments or closing comments or anything?
Sure, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so just to cover a few things that were mentioned and noted. I know it was alluded to a historic district several times. Just so we are clear, we are not actually located within a historic district. In regards to the architecture, we think it's obviously a nice looking building. It is, and I think it was mentioned by one of the public that spoke. You have a plaza across the street, and you have Killenly Commons. They're fairly newer, more modern type of designs. So with that in mind, our opinion, it does kind of meet the commercial character of the area that it's located in. It is located in a visual village commercial district. Commercial uses are allowed by right, and I can't try to guesstimate how many trips were generated by Killenly Commons, but we're talking about, our development is about a 12,000 square foot building, and without having the stats in front of me, I'd venture to guess Killenly Commons is probably over 500,000 square feet. So traffic, to compare, I think, the traffic we're gonna generate to the traffic generated by Killingly Commons, I don't think that's quite in the same, ballpark, if you will. In terms of delivery vehicles, we did provide a figure for review to the town as part of our submission. It does show an aerial fire truck can traverse the site. I believe, and Anne Marie can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe we do have sign off from the fire marshal or the fire department on that plan. And as such, the delivery vehicle that's expected could also be accommodated. The loading size dimension is what's required for the regs, which I believe is 40 feet long. Just a couple other notes. Generally, we're anticipating that deliveries are going to occur off hours. There will be instances, obviously, where that's not the case, but there should be generally unimpeded traffic flow for the majority of times that deliveries would occur. As far as the review goes, we don't have any vested interest financially in this project, both Kevin and myself. Obviously, we're doing work for a developer, but we don't have any financial interest in this project. It has been reviewed, the traffic and the engine and the plans themselves, as well as the engineering drainage report has been reviewed and initially approved by Dave Kapp and his staff. There have been some subsequent comments just because we did submit some revised plans based on the changes we discussed, but nothing substantial that we can't address. Everything seems pretty minor in nature. One other thing I think it's probably important to mention, as in regards to the parking along the front, I just want to note that it does say the commission does have the ability to waive this requirement if physical conditions exist at the site, which prohibits this. In this case, during a pre-app meeting with the town before we submitted formally, we did have a meeting with staff. Considering there is a drive-through associated with this use, staff thought it more appropriate to put the drive-through at the rear of the building with the parking along the front. Typically you don't want to see vehicles queued up along the frontage itself. So in that case, the commission does have the ability to waive that. And ourselves, and I don't want to speak on behalf of planning and zoning staff, but I believe it was agreed upon this was the preferred layout to put the parking along the front so that the drive-through itself can be located in the back. And there is precedent because if you look at the plaza across the street, there is parking located along the street with the building located behind that parking as well. I think generally that kind of my rebuttal, I guess, to some of the comments that were raised. I guess that's it.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Last time. Do we have any comment on, I have one question on the state statute section. Did you look at that? I'm not sure that applies, but
What state?
the state statute he has on the village district, the handout that was given to us,
Do you remember what page that was?
page 10. We can bring that up in this. I'm not sure our village commercial falls under that statute.
I'm not sure it does either, the way our village commercial was written versus the way the state statute is. And I don't see it as being that.
All right.
But we have never, I can tell you this, that other things in the village commercial have a similar architect. We had talked to the applicant, staff talked to the applicant about the architect. And we've also looked at, like, there are certain criteria that certain ones want. John, do you wanna handle this one, because this is the one that you were looking more on?
Yeah, so we looked at the vernacular of the streetscape as a whole in that village commercial area, particularly the sites that have been developed under the village commercial, namely the bank next door, or the two banks that are both in that district nearby with drive-throughs. Being that having that streetscape with the parking up front, the drive-through around the back, we didn't want to confuse vehicle traffic or pedestrian traffic by inverting that. So we felt that that was the best option. The statute, and I have not reviewed this in detail, but the statute that is here so under I'd have to review the
Okay.
statute, but the state isn't, or the town isn't able to enact their own zoning.
Mhm.
And this district is referred to as village commercial district. However, it could be commercial 2 district. The name isn't necessarily dependent what the town chose for it. Many towns will refer to zoning with different names, like R10 or R20, speaking to the area. We would have to review the statute, but towns are fully enabled to enact their own regulations. There are some towns and cities that are under state statute mandated regulations versus others, and those are identified. I believe Bridgeport is one of them. Some of the other cities that have a different setup, they're named.
Okay. Yeah, and just for the record, we did follow our architectural rules that we have written in our zoning rules, at least is written. And in 15 or almost 20 years now that I've been here, we haven't had a commission. But anyway, okay.
I also just want to state too that it was something, all the uses that are within this, if you want to say commercial development,
Mhm.
all of them are allowed uses. The reason why they're here for a special permit and not just a site plan review is because of the drive-through. That's the only thing that's bringing this forward as a special permit.
Okay.
This was rezoned as village commercial in the early 2000s. And at that time, I wasn't here, but I know Linda Walden was here. People were very concerned about what would happen, and if there was an issue, it would not have passed. So people were concerned of allowing it to have a village commercial area. So it was rezoned, had a review going rezoned, and everything, like I said, the only reason why they're here for a special permit is because of the drive-through.
Okay. No other comments, questions? Do we have a motion?
I have a
No?
question.
Go ahead.
Is it necessary to have an approval contingent on state approval of that traffic pattern
Yeah.
and the road itself?
If the application would move forward for an approval, one of the conditions should be that a DOT permit is issued.
So,
And any modifications DOT authorizes or requests has to be included.
yeah,
So, and if there's anything substantial to what's included already in front of us, it would have to come back. So. Yes, sir. If it is, you just need to go back to the mic or come up to the table.
I refer you to page 9, Killingly zoning regulations, 420.1.3. Please read them. Item 2 says parking shall not be provided in front of any new building. This is consistent with state statute. Parking should be located to the side and rear. The commission may waive this requirement. However, by the very definitions in the zoning documents, the word shall is must. and cannot be overridden by the word may. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Can I ask you a question?
Unless it's a legal interpretation, I'm gonna say no. Sorry, but go ahead. I don't wanna get into a back and forth on shall versus may.
This is, Charter Oak is my credit union across the street,
Mhm.
and most of the parking's in the front.
Okay, but that's not subject to this application, so.
Okay.
Sorry. Thank you, sir.
I'm just presenting observations.
Yep, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
I'm not debating, I'm just surprised.
Yes.
It says the commission.
All right. Any other comments? Being none? Oh, anything new, sir?
Ed Grandelski, in this discussion, we're talking about adjacent development. Well, we've changed village commercial since a lot of the adjacent development was done, specifically the development right across the street. There's some comments about the traffic from Killenly Commons is a lot more detrimental than this particular development. Killenly Commons is all controlled by traffic lights. This is not controlled by a traffic light. But whenever, again, we're looking at state statutes take precedence over town statutes. I don't understand if we are less strict, if the town wants to be more stringent, that's fine. But if there is a state statute that is more stringent, we have to follow it. And that's why I'm looking at section 8-2J D. All applications for new construction and substantial reconstruction within the district and in view from public roadways shall be subject to review and recommendation by an architect, architectural firm, landscape architect, or planner who is a member of the American Institute of Certified Planners, selected and contracted by the commission, and designated as the village district consultant for such applications. Where's that? Alternatively, the commission may designate as the village district consultant for such application an architecture review board whose members shall include at least one architect, landscape architect, or planner who is a member of the American Institute of Certified Planners. The village district consultant shall review an application and report to the commission within 35 days of receipt of the application. Such report and recommendation shall be entered into the public hearing record and considered by the commission in making its decision. Failure of the village district consultant to report within the specified times shall not alter or delay any other time limit imposed by the regulations. If we don't meet the state regs and we want to do something less, that's a problem. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir.
So in regards to those standards, one of the items mentions a planner who is also a member of the American Institute of Certified Planners. Both Anne-Marie Aubrey and myself are members of said organization. Yeah, the American Planning Association. We are not certified members. That's actually a lower standard in the statute. It's just a member. Both of us are members. We review the application with the applicant as well as part of our normal review procedure. Not precisely appointed for just the village commercial zone, but for all the zoning.
Thank you.
Also, Brian, just to, further down, you need to read all of paragraph 2. Parking shall not be provided in the front of any new building. Parking should be located at the side and/or rear of the proposed structure. The commission may waive this requirement if physical conditions exist at the site which prohibits this, in which event additional landscaping and buffering may be required by the commission. So if you were to allow parking to go in front of the building. You could request more landscaping so it does not be seen by the streetscape.
Thank you. Last call. Comments? Well, being none, can I get a motion to close the public hearing or continue the public hearing, or what's the commission want to do?
Is there a concrete need for further keeping it open?
So my recommendation, if we close the public hearing, is to delay a decision until we have legal at least look at that particular statute to find out its applicability, because I
Okay,
do not believe it's applicable, but.
All right, so I will.
Motion to close the public hearing?
Yeah.
All right, by Verga, do we have a second?
Second.
Excuse me? Sorry to interrupt, this is Kevin Solis for the record. If the commissioner is looking for a legal opinion, I would just, we would request that the public hearing remain open so the applicant has a chance to respond if for some reason, it requires a discussion regarding an interpretation. If the
That makes
public hearing
sense.
closed, that the applicant has no ability to, participate in any future discussions regarding any opinions that may be issued or given.
Okay, so I will undo my
Okay, hold.
motion.
Okay, so that's withdraw, but Mr. Sully, you're gonna need to give us another extension.
Yes.
We're certainly happy to do that.
Okay,
Can we give it verbally and then provide a letter tomorrow?
yes,
Okay, then so granted. 30-day extension.
So requested.
so requested, then granted.
So
Awesome.
yes.
Awesome. Awesome, all right, so do we have a motion to continue this public hearing until November 20th?
You have that motion.
Thank you, Verga, do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Okay, and can I add one condition to that? That, can I do this? You tell me if I can. That the public hearing will be held solely for the continuance of the interpretation of this state statute.
Yes, you can keep it continued for that one point.
Continued for that one point.
Yes.
Thank you. So I amend, that's my amended motion for that continuance.
But since you can't make a motion, I'll make that motion for you.
I'll have Matt make it, then you second it.
He's requesting an
I'm
amendment to the
requesting
motion.
it. Just
Okay.
so the public hearing is continued for the sole purpose of the legal interpretation on the state statute that was given to us in the public hearing, public
Okay.
comment.
I'll second it.
Awesome. Matt made it, you seconded it. Thank you.
So, are
So-
we voting on the amendment?
So we're voting on the amendment.
Okay.
So a roll call vote on the amendment to the motion.
John Sarantopoulos.
Yes.
Virgil Lorenz.
Yes?
Matt Wendorf.
Yes.
Mike Lucio.
Hugo.
Yes.
Brian Card.
Yes. All right.
The motion passes unanimously.
All right, so now we're voting on the amended motion, which is basically to continue the public hearing for the sole purpose of getting a legal interpretation on the item that was handed out, state statute, whatever it was, 82J, and if it's applicable.
Michael.
Yes.
Matthew.
Yes.
Verga.
Yes.
John.
Yes.
Brian.
Yes,
Motion passes unanimously.
thank you.
So that means we will continue it, but we continue it to resolve that one issue and that one issue only.
Correct.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone. Good night. Take care.
All right.
All right. Where am I? Hold on. Somewhere. All right, special permit application 23-1317, Canterbury Holdings LLC, Upper Maple LLC landowner, 25 Colonial Drive, JS map 113, lot 29-6, 6.57 acres, low density zone application for planned residential development, IRL, consisting of 16 two-family residential buildings, Town of Killing zoning 410.2.2, low density PRD, and 570 planned residential development, and section 700 special permit, and section 7470 site plan. Continued from a couple months ago. Ongoing.
For the record, Bob DeLuca with CLA Engineers, representing Canterbury Holdings LLC. I'd like to go through a response letter that I sent to the staff after last month's meeting to address questions from the commission, and then I'd like to go through staff comments and engineering comments, and then I'd be happy to answer any questions. So I'm going to go through my letter of 10/10/23 that you should have a copy of. to address specifically questions that were brought up. Item 1, for the record, the owner-developer will form a HOA, homeowners association, that will maintain grounds and utilities. Item 2, we've attached a revised Connecticut water letter that addresses proposed water use. Item 3, regarding questions of the responsibility of the water system. The construction of the water system will be inspected by Connecticut Water. An easement for the main and services to the edge of the private road will be granted to Connecticut Water, and they will operate and maintain the water system and invoice individual customers. The HOA will own the water system for a period of 10 years, at which time ownership will be transferred to Connecticut Water. Item 4, Connecticut WPCA letter was issued clarifying sewer use, and that was attached in your package. As far as sewer system ownership and maintenance, the WPCA will periodically inspect installation. Ownership and maintenance will be the responsibility of the homeowners association. Item 6, maintenance of the drainage infiltration pond. As discussed, this pond is actually owned by will be owned by the HOA. A portion of the town road drainage system enters the pond, so the operation and maintenance will be shared by both the town and the HOA. I've had preliminary discussions with the town engineer, and he is open to this arrangement. He'll be talking to the town attorney, or has reached out to the town attorney to see how this would be set up. The next item, there was a question about minor increases in drainage in the southeast corner of the development and the east side of the development. We've added some stone infiltration trenches to take care of this and to offset those increases, and you have revised drainage calcs to support that. A question about the type of units that are proposed. There are 3 types of units proposed: 2-bedroom, 2-family, and 3-family units, and 3- and 4-bedroom, 2-family units. The idea is to equally disperse the 2-bedroom and 3- and 4-bedroom units throughout the project. There have been revised plans submitted on architectural plans and elevations on these units. My client has agreed to revise the units to provide a 2-foot to 4-foot offset to individual residential units in order to break up the front elevation. So you'll notice that on the revised plans that there is a step in the building units. The next item on my letter, which is item 10, sheet 12 has been provided to demonstrate open space calculations. There were questions about how we arrived at the passive and active open space, and this sheet was provided specifically for that. I will get into that a little further. I will say that we located all perimeter trees. There were probably about a little more than 100 of them out there, and we've endeavored to preserve the majority of them, 60 or so, even using some tree wells at some locations.
Excuse me, what are tree wells?
In fill areas, so you're not burying a tree, the trunk of the tree, you're creating a little retaining wall around the base of the tree.
Okay, thank you.
Section 13, I'm sorry, item 11, sheet 13 was added to satisfy section 560, which is earth filling and excavation. And there's information on this sheet regarding cuts and fills on site, truck traffic, and I can also go over that in more detail. Item 12, a bus shelter was added to the community mailbox area. The community mailboxes will be in accordance with USPS guidelines. A note was added that exterior lights shall be dark sky compliant. A half basketball court and additional playground areas have been added, identifying, the playground is identifying a swing and a playscape to be provided. Item 15, sidewalks have been adjusted to be along the access road. These sidewalks would be concrete, the interior sidewalks would be stone dust, and around the pond would be stone dust. Item 16 is addressing questions related to how we comply with section 570.2C. And I was going to go through each of these. The first item was a creative clustering approach to the development of residential land in the low and medium density zones. We feel we have provided a creative clustering approach by utilizing existing drainage basin to retain, provide renovation, and infiltrate stormwater. Houses have been clustered in locations to allow for a large central passive and active open space area for the community. The clustered community is provided with safe access and public utilities. Item 2, a desirable community environment that would not be possible through strict requirements of the zoning regulations and subdivision code. The clustering of the residential living units and shared community recreation space would not have been possible utilizing typical requirements of zoning and subdivision regulations. Item 3, a wide choice in the type of living units available in Killingly. We have 2, 3, and 4 bedroom residential units that will be available. Item 4, open space or recreational opportunities for the planned residential development. Active open space is available and includes a playground, basketball court, pavilions, and approximately 2,000 linear feet of walking paths. Passive open space is available and includes wooded landscape areas connecting active space and existing stands of significant trees along the perimeter of the development. Item 5, an efficient use of land and shorter network utilities in streets and greater economics of development cost. The proposed PRD utilizes shorter networks of utilities, streets, compared to traditional development utilizing the typical requirements of zoning and subdivision regs. Item 6, residential developments which are compatible with surrounding land use intensity. The existing town road system, sanitary sewer system, and public water system. Our response is the public house architecture is comparable to architecture of the surrounding community. The intensity meets the requirements of section 570 of the zoning regs. The proposed roads, sanitary sewer, water system is compatible and meets the requirements of town roads and sewer systems and the requirements of the public water system. Item 17 in my letter addresses similar findings in section 570.3C. The first item is undeveloped land within the PRD is preserved and serves as park and recreation needs. The development conserves natural resources as applicable. These kind of overlap with the previous ones. Undeveloped land includes passive and active open space. Active open space is available and includes playground, basketball court, pavilions, 2,000 linear feet of walking paths. Passive open space is available and includes wooded landscaped areas connecting active and space and existing stands of trees in along the perimeter of the development. Natural resources include significant stands of trees and stone walls that are maintained. Item 2 under comment 17, the PRD design incorporates measures to shorten road and utility networks. Again, this is a repeat of this other section. The PRD utilizes a shorter network of utilities and streets compared to traditional development utilizing typical zoning and subdivision regs. Item 3, the PRD preserves and protects particular areas and terrain having qualities of natural features or historic significance. The proposed PRD preserves and protects natural features including significant stands of trees, stone walls, which will be maintained within the proposed development. The PRD preserves and protects groundwater and adjoining wetland areas by proposing drainage systems that will have no increase in stormwater to abutting properties, will recharge the groundwater aquifer by use of infiltration, and is designed to meet Connecticut DEP stormwater quality requirements. Number 4 under 17 The PRD protects streams, rivers, wetlands, and ponds so to avoid flooding, erosion, filling, and water pollution. Again, the PRD protects streams, rivers, and wetlands and ponds, proposing a drainage system that will have no increase in stormwater to abutting properties, will recharge groundwater by use of infiltration, and is designed to meet DEP stormwater quality standards. Item 5, the PRD offers architectural styling, detailing which complements the surrounding land uses and provides quality housing opportunities to meet the growing needs of the community. As I said, 2, 3, and 4-bedroom residential units will be available. The proposed house architecture is comparable to architecture surrounding the community. The last item, the PRD incorporates features and designs to enhance public safety and minimize potential hazard. The PRD incorporates the following features and designs to enhance public safety and minimize public hazards. Bus shelter and community mailbox, sidewalks with access throughout the PRD, access roads constructed to town road standards, lighting along walkways, emergency vehicle access, connection to a public water system, including hydrants within development, and connection to the town sewer system. I'm just gonna go through, there were a couple new town comments. One had to do with widening the paved access to the pond that maintenance will be shared on, which is not a problem. The other had to do with providing a detail of the infiltration trench we're proposing. It's actually on sheet 17, so it might have got missed. And then there was a comment in the general notes. These are more or less a repeat and have to do with the construction, bonding, and other as-built requirements that the town will require. But there was a comment that the town engineer is reaching out to the town attorney regarding the maintenance agreement on the shared detention pond. And then there was a comment from the planning staff related to the passive open space. They asked us to try to connect the northeast area if possible. The north and the east area, which we ended up going back out and locating several more trees along that area. And that's when we added the tree wells and were able to connect those areas. So in summary, I feel we meet and comply with the requirements of section 570.2C and 570.3C. All significant engineering comments have been addressed, and I believe staff is satisfied with addressing the open space comment that they recently provided.
Yeah, could you just dive a little deeper into the lighting along walkways? Are they going to be short so that the cone of light that's going to hit the concrete or bituminous is smaller than a wide thing that comes from above?
Yeah, well, they're designated to be dark sky compliant. We
Yeah,
have, there will be lighting on some of the residences. I'm just looking for, the pole detail is showing it 8 foot. And then the light fixture itself is about 2 feet, so it's it's on sheet 18. That's probably not that's a typical light. I mean, there's a note further down that says it needs to be dark sky compliant, so.
Yeah, it needs a hat.
Yeah. That's just a standard light that we use to show how the base is and how high it is. If you look underneath item, in the notes, item 4, the light fixture shall be IDA dark sky approved in the detail.
And just, I'm raising the issue, I don't know the answer.
Okay.
So when it, so the surfaces, bituminous is darker than concrete, right?
Correct.
Yeah, so do you have a preference? I mean, or can I suggest that then bituminous be used rather than concrete? Or is that?
For the walkways?
At least, yeah, the walkways. I'm not, I can't control how the roads are built. So,
Well, I mean, concrete is considered a better surface for a walkway than bituminous. It'll certainly last longer. I mean, what's your reasoning for the,
okay, so I've been, the princess of dark skies for a while. And in my previous house, I had a window facing the mall. And I lived more than 3 miles out of, away from that. And that window was lit up every night because the stanchions were so high at the mall that, by the time the light hit the ground, it was a large cone. And so that project there helped me understand that while there are regulations in place, out in the real world, they don't really work very well. So I don't have a way to say that it has to be one way or the other. I'm saying to everybody that the problem has still not been solved, because I can, if you go to the mall itself and stand up and look at the sky, you can't see stars. So,
I will say that there's very few lights proposed. I mean, we did them in areas where there weren't houses. I mean, on that sheet, for example, I believe there's only four or five of them proposed, and they were in those. If people are walking along the walk and someone has the lights off at the house, they'll know where they're going at least. But there's two on the right where the curve of the road is, and there's one as you get. There's one near the pavilion. There's really very few of them.
yeah, but I looked at the little graphic of it.
Yeah.
And it's basically, the cap is just right on top of the bulb. It
As I
doesn't
said,
have-
I apologize. That does not accurately
Okay.
reflect that picture does not. But,
Okay, thank you. That's all I need to know.
Okay, John?
Okay. Could you, for the benefit of everybody, explain how, under section 583, this project qualifies under density? And it says that the maximum number of lots for building sites in a cluster development shall not exceed the number of buildable lots,
This is-
which could be created through the.
John, this is PRD, not cluster. 570,
Oh, 570, okay, all right. So that's different.
yeah.
Disregard that. Okay.
I didn't mean to cut you off, but just wanted to.
Pardon?
I didn't want to cut you
No,
off.
that's
but
good.
just-
Thank you. Yeah.
Mr. DeLuca, everybody else is looking up their questions. You said you had a change on the open space?
Yes, could you flip that? It's, sheet 13, 12 rather. So the change we had from what you initially was submitted last week, we made a minor change in the top right corner. That green, staff suggested we connect as much of the passive open space as possible. So we went back out and located more trees in that top right corner. We also located trees, I don't know if you can point to them at all, Jonathan, that would connect. We also located trees along the east side that we were able to, they're in the fill area, and we were proposing this for pretty significant sized trees there that we're proposing the wells around. So that's the only change we made.
Just I have a couple questions on the open space then. So, I see what you did up at the pond area. Now, that entire pond area is subject to a town of Killingly easement, drainage easement, correct?
It will be. I think it has to be finalized with the road acceptance, but you can probably defer to Dave on that.
We have an existing easement on there now? That's what the plan says. The plan says subject to a town of Killingly. I think it says we have an easement on that pond now.
I am not sure if it has ever been filed.
Okay, so my question is, what does that easement say in relation to that being a conserved open space area?
Again, I don't know off the
Okay.
top of my head.
And And then, as far as your open space along the perimeters, again, as I mentioned last meeting, I still have concern about, again, stormwater ponds and buffer zones being open spaces, considered open spaces, because they're required to be done anyway, like the 20-foot buffer zone along the east and now the north side. You're required to have that buffer zone, so you're trying to take account for that for open space.
Well,
That's not
I'll
the
answer
intent.
your first question regarding the pond. The pond is not being calculated in the open space.
Right, I see you limited the fence line and you're taking
Limited the
advantage
fence
of the stuff.
line, and the 100-year storm is
Yep.
limited to that tree line within the pond, so.
Yep, I saw that change, so. But the two other questions would be, your passive open space, to me, it's not, again, the rules say it should be easily accessible and not subject to privacy concerns of the neighborhood. Again, I don't think your passive open space, if you can define how is it easily accessible, and how does it impair the privacy of the units.
Just grab the regs. I guess that is subject to interpretation.
It's page 4.
Passive open space shall preserve a significant stands of trees, stream belts, historic, traditional, or significant uses, structures, architectural elements, flood hazard areas where appropriate, and may be subject to town acquiring conservation rights and/or pedestrian thoroughfare rights. What was the section you were talking about?
Next section, next paragraph.
Both passive and active should be in locations easily accessible to the living units and where they do not impair the view and privacy of the living units. Children's informal play areas, parks, picnic areas, playgrounds, walking and so is your point is that you don't feel these are easily accessible?
Yes, I mean, if you got someone walking in your backyard, that's gonna be a concern, right? So if they were saying that that's passive open area, so people will walk through nature, so that's definitely a privacy concern, and it's not easily accessible. I mean, you've now made a continuous link on the north side, which means people can now walk through the backyards of everybody going along there, so that's number one. Again, number two, like I said, this is proposed buffer, it's supposed to be a buffer zone, a 20-foot setback anyway. So again, that might be an issue for the commission to address as to whether or not we consider that open space. But the intent of open space was to preserve property, to allow you to do enhanced development, but preserve additional property for open space and recreational uses, so.
So certainly in the upper left corner, you would consider that accessible, correct?
You got a walking trail, you got a walking trail there, obviously people can get to it.
Is it accessible as a view, or is it accessible, is the idea to walk through passive open space? Is that, can I get some interpretation from the staff on this? I mean, I've been working with the staff closely on this item in particular, and actually spoke to the planner who reviewed this morning, and she thought it met all the regulations, so if that's not the case, and this is open to interpretation, then
Good, John.
Yeah, so we had the assistant planner, Allison Brady, who oversees our conservation properties and our open space properties. Look at this. She was the one who pointed out, trying to connect as much as possible the properties. Off-site, which isn't readily depicted in these plans, but was part of the reason for the need for it to go to wetlands. There is wetlands on the properties to the east, to the south. In these areas, typically like a town-owned conservation property, we would look at this more as a natural corridor type of thing, not for, we wouldn't put trails. We wouldn't want trails in those types of areas for open space. It would be clearly passive, which I believe there's a provision in those regulations to either require trails and access or not. Being that this is all the same parcel and property, they're talking about the living units, trying not to be intrusive to the living units. We felt downhill, these areas, having it identified as you can't cut or clear those trees, is ideal. There is language that talks about like buffering zones and setbacks, for instance. Setbacks are for built structures. There's really no provision that says you can't cut the trees all the way up to the property line. It's not a commercial property versus residential. This is residential versus residential. So there's no extra provision necessarily for large amount of buffering, similar to what you would see in other applications under commercial. So the assistant planner felt that it was adequate, particularly identifying the trail areas, and this was one of our suggestions when we met with the applicant, was to identify it on a plan with a nice gradient. So all that, the calculation, and they could work out that total percentage calculation would be better addressed compared to last meeting, where I think that was the feedback for the commission, that it wasn't adequate or clearly addressed, particularly in the pond area.
Correct.
Yep.
That was my comment. Yep, no, I'm just giving you my opinion of the open space and how I view it and how I view the rules and what the intent of it is supposed to be from my position, not anybody else's comment, so.
Just, we could have, you could always also think of it as a wildlife corridor with the trees not being cut to allow the wildlife a place to go that's safe and secure for them. And that's part of what we look at as well.
Assuming there's no development to the east.
Well, but,
Again.
I have development all around me and I still get deer.
Yeah, I'm not arguing, I'm just saying, so
Yeah.
for this particular property, for the open space on this property, I'm looking at this individually, not, again, I am taking holistically the area to the east and the south, but, and just for the record, if you run your calculation of active versus, open, it's 35%, which does fall within the criteria, so that's not shown on the calc page. 'Cause
Oh, is there a line missing regarding the?
you're required to be within the 30 to 50% you're active versus passive, so you're
But
30.
you're saying it does meet it?
You're 35% based on my calculation, but I would recommend you add that to the plan.
Okay.
It's not me beeping, somebody else is dinging. So. Any-
Is it, I think it's on the bottom line, it says 33.7% percentage of.
Is it added?
Or is it another calculation? You're saying it needs to be added together?
Oh, no, it is, okay, sorry, I missed it. It is, never mind, you're right. I stopped, the line above it.
It's a lot to read.
Any other comments?
I got
Yes, Mike?
just two. The water system, the HOA will take care of the hydrants also, right?
No, they will do neither. The Connecticut Water will take care of the water system, but the HOA will actually own it until 10 years, and then it'll be
Who's
turned
gonna
over to
pay for the
Connecticut Water.
hydrants?
Well, the HOA or the developer who's gonna build it is gonna pay for the hydrants, but,
Yeah, but if
Yeah.
something happens to the hydrant.
something's gonna happen to them. They'll maintain, Connecticut Water will maintain and operate it, and then they'll back charge the HOA.
Okay. And do you have some idea, one of them says here, the living units are 2, 3, and 4 bedrooms. Do you have some idea how many of each?
Just that it would be distributed evenly. Those 2, 3 families, those are all 2 bedrooms. The rest of it, it would be, I can let my clients here, if you wanna speak to that, Randy, at all, as to what the distribution would be.
That would really be determined, Randy Brown. That would really be.
Sorry, sir, up to the mic.
Again, Randy Brown. The 2 and 4 and 3 bedroom units, I think, talking with commission members and talking with staff, that the 4 bedrooms really aren't gonna be that big of a deal, the 3 and 2 bedrooms, so I think probably 65 to 70% of it's gonna be 2 and 3 bedrooms. Maybe have a couple that are gonna be 4 bedrooms, because I own a lot of 2-bedroom ones, and everybody wants a 3rd bedroom, not a lot of people want the 4th bedroom. So I think majority of them are gonna be 3 bedrooms, and the 2s, and then maybe 15% might be 4. But somewhere around the 75 to 80% for 2 and 3 bedrooms.
Yeah, I think we got off on the wrong track when I was trying to show the worst case from a water sewer standpoint, and that's why I was using the term 4-bedroom at the beginning. And I think that just stuck in everyone's, but I think, based on what you're saying, it's gonna be
Yeah.
mostly 2 and 3 bedroom.
And can I just say a topic about what you were talking about the outside of the property being in open space and all that stuff? As a land developer, I live in developments that I've actually built, and in Lisbon, they actually made that part of my lots, that we actually had a 10-foot right-of-way all around the subdivision, so in future developing, which like you just brought up, the next person that does it could actually put more into it, another 10, and make it bigger. And like Rhode Island has, they have walking trails out in the middle of the woods. And for future development, that's one of the things that they did in one of my subdivisions, that nobody even knows about it, but it's on land record in like a conservation easement that's there for the rest of its life. And people can walk right down through right on the side of my house, and they don't have to tell me, they can just come right down there and walk by it. So, just so when you say that, I wanted you to know I've already dealt with that. So, and it happens, I have people walk right down by my house. So, but it's there for people that have future development going on. So, thank you.
Thank you. Comments, questions, before we open the hearing?
I just have one quick thing about, there's a lot of open space, it's just like clear cut within this. I'm wondering if there's any thought given to introducing maybe smaller decorative trees within the sites themselves to kind of create separation between the units. I know I've seen plenty of developments where there's just open fields between everything, and it's the amount of privacy that each individual residence has from its neighbor is limited, even if you're altering orientations of the buildings and such. I'm wondering if it doesn't make sense that there's just additional landscaping that's at least thought of within the actual the sites themselves.
If you can show sheet 10 and 11, there is quite a bit of proposed landscaping, unless you're talking about right adjacent to the
No,
house.
it might just not have been shown on the plan that I was looking at, possibly.
10 and 11 both have a little bit more detailed planting schedules.
Yeah, those are all the proposed plantings throughout. And if you look on those sheets, the ones that are a little less dark are the existing trees that we're looking to preserve, which are mostly along the perimeter.
Okay, thank you.
And nothing else right now? Just going back through, just a follow-up then on question 17 that you answered. So number 2, you talked about the shortened utility and road networks. You said if this was a conventional development, you think the road and utility networks would be shorter? Longer, I mean?
Yeah, I assume.
So this would probably equate to maybe an 8 or 9 lot division if you look at the minimum regs, so 30,000 square feet. So how do you justify that it would be potentially longer? So it's a general comment, but there's no kind of.
I was just comparing it to typical residential subdivisions that are in rural areas that don't have water and sewer.
Yep.
And you're on 2-acre lots, and so you have a lot more frontage, so the roads are longer and.
But this is low density, 30,000 square feet, would potentially have water and sewer. So, I mean, again, I'm just trying to compare so we get a reason, because we have to, find three of the 6 criteria to be met.
Okay, well then, I did misinterpret that then, if that does not hold true for low density.
Given that this is a
Yeah.
full build out of almost
Yeah.
the full 6.5 acres, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you pretty much got a big loop in there. You've got
Yeah.
almost.
Correct.
So.
Correct.
Okay. Anybody from the public want to speak to this application? Please come to the mic. Just, when you get a chance.
Ed Grandelski, Upper Maple Street. The first thing, the thing that stands out in my mind that the comments by the developer who says this does not meet typical zoning regulations. The other thing, this is a Colonial Drive is not a town road. It's been in existence for how many years? The infrastructure's falling apart. I guess the paving is falling apart. That's a big question right there. The next thing is, how many houses or how much people can you put on a dead-end road, on a one-exit road? I get it, especially knocking on doors, Zadora Heights. When are you, me, gonna put a second exit to Zadora Heights? There's been 7 times when trees have been down that they drove over live power lines, let's put it that way, to get out of there. Now, my chops are being busted because I'm on the town council. So I don't understand how this can go, and the road is not a town road. The intent of the regulations is to protect and conserve the existing or planned character of all parts of the town, et cetera. Beneficial development. I don't know whether this is a beneficial to the town. Given, I don't know, I can't see that. Maintenance, shared maintenance of the sedimentation pond. That's going to be shared by the HOA and the town. There's no way in hell that I would approve that if I have to approve the town road. It's either HOA or the town. I don't know where it's gonna go. There was a comment made, it's gonna go to the town attorney to define ownership, whatever. I don't know how you can, it's either one or the other. There's a talk about a bus shelter. School buses aren't allowed on Colonial Drive because it's not a town road. So as part of this development, there's I assume that's a bus shelter, a school bus shelter. I don't think there's gonna be a commercial bus to drive down that particular road, but I don't know, something is missing there. There's a comment made that the roads, I believe this new road will meet town road standards. If it's not gonna be to the town, and I've seen it on other subdivisions in other towns, they built a private subdivision, then all of a sudden when the HOA goes default, everybody's complaining, oh, we want the town to take over the road, we want the town to take over the sewer because you have a public sewer line. So I don't understand that there's a problem with that. The WPCA is supposed to inspect something. I don't know what they would inspect up there. It's not, I mean, an initial installation, but there was a maintenance. From what I don't know how this is, but what are they going to inspect? The easement to the storm to retention pond. Well, again, I don't know because it's all privately owned. Unless it's going to be turned over, unless Colonial Drive is going to be turned over to the town in the foreseeable future, but if it's not, then I don't know where a need for an easement is. Definition of open space. Well, you had a little discussion about open space, but Mr. Sarantopoulos had a lot, when he was on the council, many times talking about useless open space that can't be, you can't even walk on it or whatever. So there was some comments about the retention pond being part of open space. Well, it's not usable. The retention pond is a retention pond. So, parking, I don't know, well, I don't know if there's enough parking. If, I can't tell from the scale from here, is there enough room to be off of that driveway between the buildings? And then I don't know if there's any issues, but I mean, you're not supposed to be backing into a town road. There should be a turn off, a backing spot on the space so you don't back into a roadway, whatever. With respect to the water service, the HOA to pay for hydrants, is that for time immemorial? The hydrants are charged, I don't know what the charge for a hydrant is, it's $1,500, $2,500, a humongous charge per hydrant. I know the Housing Authority had a hydrant put in, and they didn't realize that they had to pay a yearly fee to have that hydrant on their property. Had the hydrant been on the town road, it would have been totally different, but again, there was some misleading and whatnot, and they were led in the direction that maybe they should not have been. No, I can't, I made some of the notes, I don't. What I'm wondering, again, is this is, if the I'm calling it a driveway, I assume it's a driveway around, maybe not, but if it's a roadway and it's gonna be, it's gonna meet town standards, but if it's gonna meet towns, is it gonna be inspected and all of that, with all the criteria to to whatever the town standard is? From what I'm seeing here, I'm not sure. And then access to the retention pond. I came before this body 12 years ago, before wetlands, talking about a retention pond and ease of maintenance. Just every time I came 3 times for each, ease of maintenance. And I was told my concerns are heard. The first time that the town had to go and repair the sedimentation pond exit, they couldn't get to it because the easement was right through the center of the retention basement and not around the side. So again, with respect to the retention pond, there's a lot of ifs. If the town's gonna have to take it over, then it's gonna be designed, so ease of maintenance for the town. It's gonna be left to the HOA, let them deal with it. I think that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Hi, I apologize in advance. You guys are gonna have me up here for a little time because I'm speaking for 3 people. So my name is Jody Clun. I live at 20 Colonial Drive, so I am directly to the left, abutting on the property. So the proposed walking path runs the length of the side of my yard. My main concern with that is that I'm asking that there's some sort of fence barrier, like a vinyl fence or something, put up there for multiple reasons. One, just kind of dampening the noise of the people that will be using the path, especially in warm weather when there's a lot of people out there. Also just for privacy for me. And a big concern I have since the walking path has been proposed there is kids being able to get from there, cutting through my yard to get either as a shortcut to Route 101 or somewhere else they want to get, rather than coming out the length of Colonial and going down Upper Maple and then going to 101. So I'm asking that there's some sort of a fence that kids can't climb over. I know kids get bored. Yes, I know there's some stuff for them to do in this development, but maybe not enough for as many kids as could wind up there. They're gonna be looking to go other places, and I don't want people traipsing through my yard. I can put up no trespassing signs, but, you know, we all know kids, we've all been kids, it doesn't always work, and I don't want people coming through my property. And the other big concern I have with this, like the other gentleman had just brought up about the fact that we're a small street with one-way in or out. My understanding, and somebody keep me honest, because I wasn't at the last meeting unfortunately, but the bus stop and the mailboxes, I think, are gonna be where Upper Maple meets with Colonial, or are they gonna be at the foot of the development?
They're gonna be at the beginning of the development.
Okay, so my concerns are, when you have people, either everybody stopping to get their mail at once and there's a bunch of cars, in the circle that makes it hard to get in and out, or, bad weather days when you're gonna have parents lining the streets in their cars with their kids waiting for the bus because they don't want them out in the snow and the rain. It's gonna make it difficult for people to get in and out for work. I consider that problematic. I don't know if you guys have discussed that, but, you know, the street is narrow and it's gonna be enough of a change with all this traffic going in and out through the straight part of the circle and having cars clustered around. The rest of it is gonna be problematic for us. And then the only other thing I had for me, and I apologize if this was mentioned last meeting, I wasn't able to be here, but I haven't heard anything specifically on if any of this is going to be like subsidized housing, low income, Section 8, anything like that. And I'm looking for information on that because I think everybody deserves a place to live, but I also know that that can impact my property values, and as an abutting homeowner, I think I want to be able to make a fully informed decision on what I want to do based on, this going in. And I think that's information that especially the abutting homeowners deserve to know so they can all make informed decisions as to, you know, what do they want to do, knowing this is going to be in here. So that's all for me, but I do have two other people to read comments for. So this is for Carol Donnelly at 1034 Upper Maple Street. Her side yard meets my backyard, so that's why she's got an interest in this. I admit I don't know much about construction or zoning, but I do know I moved to this quiet, peaceful town because it wasn't congested with people living on top of one another. I know that the proposed variance will displace the wildlife that calls those 7 acres home. I know the trees the hawk returns to every year will be eliminated. I know the bobcat who likes to come out at night will lose its home. I know the deer will lose their food source once the land is bulldozed, and I know I will lose my enjoyment of watching these creatures from my window. I know my yard will be used as a cut-through for the kids who live in the proposed cluster development. I know that I will have to incur a several $1,000s expense to put up a fence to keep that from happening. I know the only way I won't have to incur that cost is if the builder is required to put up a fence on his property line. I know my quiet enjoyment will go away. I know I was told at the last meeting that the proposed development will not be low-income housing. Oh, I wasn't here, so I guess I missed that. But that's not to say the builder, who stated at the August meeting that he was probably going to keep 10 properties for himself, won't turn those 10 properties into Section 8 housing, which will adversely affect my property value. I know Canterbury Holdings has no vested interest in the town of Killingly other than to make as much money as possible before leaving the surrounding properties in town to deal with any potential fallout. I don't begrudge him for wanting to make a buck, but maybe build half the number of duplexes on these 7 acres and build the other half on the almost 5 acres at the address listed for Canterbury Holdings. I know I sound selfish with my concerns, but this is my home, my castle, and I feel that I need to defend it and my right to live peacefully. I know there is a housing shortage, but I also know that cramming upwards of 150 people onto 7 acres is too much. I know that this is a low-density area and it should remain a low-density area. Thank you for your time. And then lastly, I am speaking for Greg and Donna St. George at 1040 Upper Maple Street. Greg is here, Donna couldn't be here. As I'm doing this, he asked if I could hand these out to folks. Look, I just keep hitting this. My wife and I moved into our new house on 1040 Upper Maple Street in 2006, almost 18 years ago. Our backyard and the field behind our yard was all cut down and cleared. You could see a good quarter-mile of clear land. Then we just moved into our new house, and we found out the town was going to build a new 25-unit, single-family, 55 and over housing units. We saw the plans and thought that it would be, and that's what we passed out. We saw the plans and thought that it would be reasonable for the area. The plans look good with a spread-out plan with spaces for trees. Colonial Drive leading up to the complex was smaller than a legal-sized road. That seemed okay because the complex should not have that much traffic. As time went on, though, building complex fell through and was not built. I think the housing market at the time collapsed and the housing market slowed way down. Fast forward almost 18 years to 2023, and here we are again with the same piece of property. But this time, the build will be 16 two-family duplexes, 32 families. That's 64 parents, and if each family has 2 children, that's 128 people at the least, crammed onto 6 acres of land. Just because someone says you can put 32 families on 6 acres of land doesn't make it right. Other issues. Traffic backed up on Upper Maple during the school year. From the Light by 4G's restaurant to past Colonial Drive when school gets out from Ellis Tech, QVCC, and KISS school. Possible flooding with drainage easement, not enough parking, traffic and noise, cars parked lined up on Colonial Drive waiting for the school bus at the end of the street. Older children getting into trouble because there is nothing for them to do, both parents probably working and kids home alone. Cutting through private property to take shortcuts to where they want to go. Taking land to make sidewalks to school or activities. Who's going to clear the sidewalks in the winter months? The trail should be made around the new housing complex for safety reasons out in the open and bring privacy to existing neighbors. It would help stop the general public from using the trail and parking and blocking up the cul-de-sac. I would like a six-foot white vinyl fence put up on the property line of my property and the builder's property, all the way north from where my fence ends, and the tree's marked with a ribbon wrapped around it. Taxes going up from all the children entering into our school system, also all the children entering from the Ware Road Housing Project on one of those little 8x8 signs nailed to a tree. In closing, the housing plan in 2006 was made with thought about respect for surrounding neighborhood and comfort for the new complex. The current project on the table now is a train wreck waiting to happen. It's a shame that a project of this size that the whole town should know about and vote on it, but the only clue about this project was a little 8x8 sign at the end of a cul-de-sac in Colonial Drive. No one would ever see that sign unless you drove down Colonial Drive and know it was there. I wonder why.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public?
Ulatique Barclay, 26 Dark Lantern Hill Road. I'm speaking as a resident. I'm also on the town council. I don't know how this planned cluster development is part of conservation and development when, as many people have said, there are 16 duplexes, although if you look at the new plan, those aren't duplexes, those are triplexes up there. And if it's supposed to be for kids to play, do you think they're gonna play in that little play area? If it was a conventional development, which Brian had said 30,000 square feet per unit, kids would have room to play. How many square feet around each unit is there going to be? It's basically looks like a housing project. Kids are gonna, and parents are gonna want their kids to play in their own yards. I don't see how this, just squishing all of these homes is following the conservation and development plan. And I really feel for all of the neighbors with all of the traffic, because with the 4-bedroom units, you're gonna be looking at 3 and 4 cars. And where are they gonna park? There's no plan for parking. One in the garage and one in the driveway. And like Ed had mentioned, if they wanted the town to take over And currently Colonial Drive is a private road, so the school bus will not even be going onto Colonial Drive. All of those children will have to walk to the end of the street. I really do see a problem, and this does not coincide with Killingly's conservation and development plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
My name is Charles Lautieri. I live at 20 Colonial Drive. A couple of things that some of the people brought up. This gentleman mentioned there's going to be sidewalks. To where? To Upper Maple. The kids are going to have a sidewalk on Colonial Drive. They're going to get to Upper Maple and be in traffic. This lady mentioned parking. There is no way there's enough room for all of those cars that are going to be there. They're going to be in the circle. I'm not going to be able to get in my driveway. The kids aren't going to have anywhere to go. There is not enough room for all of the people that are going to be in that place. It's an awesome development. It's not the right area for it. It's a street that has 10 people on it. You're talking about adding another 150 people to it. Just some concerns from what I've heard other people talking about. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I just have one more thing? I just thought of it. Sorry, forgive me. You had just mentioned about and I think Ed may have mentioned
Just
too, that
say your name
oh,
again.
sorry, Jody Clun, 20 Colonial Drive. You had mentioned about the school buses not being allowed to go up there. So if the bus stop can't go at the entrance to the development, if it has to go down on the corner, that's actually gonna be an even bigger problem for us, because if parents are sitting in their cars with their kids, even if they're only lining one side of that street, we have issues now where if somebody's parked on the curb along the street part of this cul-de-sac, unless they're right up against the curb, other cars have trouble getting out. It's narrow there, so if the bus stop does wind up at the corner and we have anybody sitting in their cars in inclement weather, you know, to protect their kids, which I think they should be able to do, but if they do it there, the residents are gonna have a really tough time being able to get out of this street, so that makes it actually a bigger issue. So that's what I wanted to bring up.
Thank you.
Ed Grindelski. What I missed was, there was some confusion during the discussion about 2, 3, and 4 bedroom. Now, the plan, I don't know, the plan should define which units are which. It seemed like the way the discussion was going, well, we're gonna make this one 2, we're gonna make this one 3, we don't want 4 because nobody wants 4, but I think the plan has to define which ones are which. There was a talk about when they build, they're gonna put a concrete sidewalk adjacent to the driveway or road, whatever it is, I don't know. And then there's gonna be stone dust for the interior walkways to be maintained by the HOA. Well, Davis Park, we have some stone dust walkways. They lasted about 2 years and then they got encroached by the grass. And it's hard for the town, and we have people dedicated to fix that. And I can't see an HOA doing something like that. But, thank you.
Thank you. All right, any follow-ups from the commission members? Mr. DeLuca, any response or anything you've heard?
Mr. Grain, some of the earlier comments, Mr. Grandelski, had to do with Colonial Drive and the status of Colonial Drive. And the discussions we've had with the town was that this would be more or less a condition of approval. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but there are upgrades that need to be done to that road that you're holding the owner to. And it'll be brought up to town standards. I think there's a section of walk missing, the pavement's 10 years old, and so forth. And that we have no problem with that being a condition of approval, and at that point is when you're gonna work out easement and maintenance of that pond that will, right now, is being shared by the town and will eventually be, if this gets approved, that development. So, we expect that the town would be, that the road would be a town road as a condition of this approval and be accepted by the town. The road within development will always be private. It's always been understood that that would be a private road and owned by the HOA and maintained by the HOA.
Excuse me.
I don't understand what you're saying.
Colonial Drive,
It needs repairs now, and the whoever has responsibility for it now is gonna make them, or are you gonna make them when you
the
develop
owner
this?
of this property, which is different from my applicant.
Okay, so when you people get done with your development, the homeowners association are gonna be responsible for that road. Is that correct?
No. We're talking about two things. We're talking about Colonial Drive, which
Yeah.
was never accepted as a town road. So we're talking about making that a condition of approval, that it gets accepted as a town road, condition of this application approval, which means there's a list of items Dave's office prepared that need to be addressed in order for that to get accepted.
And
Doesn't it
it's-
have to go to a town meeting to get that approved?
Correct. It needs to be adopted by the town council.
Yeah. Is there a public hearing on that?
I believe it's a meeting.
They have the approval, I mean, the
Yeah,
authority?
It's a town meeting. The public is certainly welcome to come and speak on it. But when that would, when they present the application to be accepted.
It's not pending right now.
It's not.
It's not pending, the work's not done. Basically, what we're saying is the town's holding a bond for the previous owner to upgrade the road. That has to be done and completed first before they can submit that to be accepted by the town. And then the town council has to accept the roadway. And what the applicant here is saying is that before any development occurs on their property, that all has to occur. They're saying they're willing to accept that as a condition of approval if it gets approved. Your question?
Carry on.
Okay. No, just go. All right.
It went in from one side of my brain to the other.
There were a few more comments. The road is being, the interior road, the private road is being built to town standards. It's just, it won't be a town road, the sidewalks, but it will be built to a standard, an accepted standard for roads. The maintenance of the, as I said, the operation and maintenance of the water system will be Connecticut Water's responsibility. It will actually be owned by the HOA. 10 years from this point, or when it's built, the Connecticut Water will take it over.
Is that a standard or is that an agreement you have with Connecticut Water?
When I spoke to, it will be an agreement, but that's their standard language with this type of situation, that they, in other words, that this is what they've done with other PRDs in town. The WPCA is inspecting the sewer from a safety and health standpoint. I mean, you can answer that better than I can. But the responsibility of maintenance is on the HOA.
Yes, the WPCA inspections would take place very similar to a building official inspecting a house, same concept.
And I assume you would also be inspecting the road too?
That's correct.
And that was
Yeah.
part of the town engineer's conditions.
Anything else?
Just a brief traffic comment. I know we discussed briefly that the ADT on Maple Street's about 6,500 cars per day, the average daily traffic, based on 4 trips per day coming out of each one of these houses. That's about a 2% increase to the ADT. Just a general comment. When we went into this initially, we were told we did not need a traffic study for this, but we don't see this as a significant increase to Maple Street. Regarding the fence, there was a comment about putting a fence along the pond. We are proposing, a tree buffer along that, and there's a natural tree buffer that we're leaving. I'm not sure where to, once we stop putting up fences, where we stop with something like that. I don't know if that isn't a requirement for something like this. Do you typically have these in your developments?
Isn't there a fence shown around the
There's a fence
pond?
around the pond. They were
Yes.
looking for a property line fence.
I'll defer that to.
Yeah. Yeah, so
Developers have offered it before to alleviate concerns of neighbors.
Okay.
So.
I'll leave that to my client. However, I don't know.
He left.
Oh, did he? Oh,
Well, he
okay.
walked out, so. Just quickly, he's back, if you want to confer, but quickly, there's 5 agreements that I think we haven't seen. Sometimes we get them, sometimes we will request them later, but a couple of them I think are critical. One is the HOA agreement, one is the town agreement on the sediment pond cleaning, whether or not that'll be accepted, right? Third one would be the Connecticut Water Agreement to own and maintain the infrastructure up to 10 years. There is a roadway maintenance agreement that's required for the HOA. It's written in the rules that we need to make sure that the roadways are maintained and somehow funded for that. And then there's an open space preservation agreement that there should be a resident association to discuss and maintain the open spaces, so. Those are all listed in the rules.
Do you want those now, or are you saying?
Some of them,
or
I think,
Can
some
they
of-
all be just made up, I mean,
That's
the
up,
attorney
that's up,
has-
that's up to the rest of the commission. I'm just bringing it up so everybody's aware of
Yeah.
it.
I mean, we
So.
are willing, we plan on forming an HOA, and we'll have those requirements in it, and we're happy to make that a condition of approval.
Again, I'm bringing it up so the commission's aware of it, so. Any other responses or comments, or? Yeah, public hearing's still open, sir, so hold on one minute. Sure, Ed, we'll give you 1 more minute. I run a tight ship up here, so. Go ahead.
Oh, okay, I thought you were saying there was some
Nope,
delay.
go ahead. No,
Okay.
no delay.
Well, I still have an issue with the road, with Colonial Drive itself.
This is not the subject of the public hearing, Colonial Drive. Colonial Drive's not
Yes, it
part.
is.
No.
Colonial Drive as a private road,
Yep.
and they're trying to say he wants it to be up to town standards. So,
No, it's not what he said. It's what he said was, what he said as part of their condition, they're willing to accept that. If we put the condition upon this application that the town has to be accepted, that the road has to be up to town standards accepted by the town before they can build, they're willing to live with that condition.
okay, well, those conditions should be part of your, all the conditions that engineering needs to meet have to be they're
And
gonna be
those
outlined.
exist for the prior subdivision.
I mean, yes, but also the infrastructure's how many years old? It lost its useful life.
And that all exists under the prior subdivision.
So,
And the town needs to follow up and get that rectified, not planning and zoning.
well, then maybe when you guys, I would like to see it come before the council.
So would I.
Is there any way when we do something like this, there's a time limit that it has to be done? That, I'm just throwing that out, like sidewalks and some other things, maybe in the regulations. If we approve a road, or you're going through a road, the developer has 5 years to get a section done and approved by the town council. Because then we get a situation like we have here, and who's gonna squabble? The paving, well, what was done? Who's gonna pay for the reinspection, if there was any? Who's gonna pay for looking at the deterioration?
And I think we've taken steps to do that regarding with the building department as far as issuing
I hope
last
so.
occupancy
I-
permits for subdivisions. All right, that all work has been done and pretty much accepted before we release the bonds and most permits, so.
I hope so.
But this sounds like it's beyond, this is like 10 or 15 years old.
That's
So.
my point. It's
Yes.
a problem.
But again, planning and zoning can't fix that. That issue with Colonial Drive, sorry.
Hi. My name is Greg St. George. I live at 1040 Upper Maple Street. And my house is in the far north corner of that pond. And what I worry about is how close to the back of my property is that walking trail. And that's why, because when you have that, once the word starts spreading around town, you're going to have not only residents of that complex, but you're going to residential people coming and use that walk trail and park in the cul-de-sac, and there's an issue with people who are going to police them. I want to know what the barrier is from that trail to my back property. A tree. Who's gonna stop anybody from walking into my backyard? I think anyone that lives here would be concerned. I think that walking trail should be around the new complex. It's much safer and it's not in the woods.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you. I hope you can understand me.
Yes, sir, we did.
Excuse me, what's your last name?
St. George. I'm a really big concern about that.
He's worried about the walking trail.
Right, the distance, did you say St. George?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
How close is the walking trail to the
Yeah.
property? You should be outside the 20-foot buffer. Hits the buffer.
Yeah, it's 20 feet. 20, it's closest, it is 20 feet.
20 feet from the property line.
Correct.
Any other comments, questions? Yes.
Just addressing the triplexes, when the permit was for duplexes.
Go ahead.
It's not that the application was looking for duplexes. What's happening is the total number of units. He's just reconfigured the total number of units. So that isn't really,
It said 16 duplexes.
and that's what it was originally designed as. So when you think of that, it's 32 units. He still has 32 units. He just reorganized the number of units, how he put the number of units together. So he's not over the number of units.
Any other comments, questions? Staff? No?
Anything on the, any more, or are you thinking about the parking? Is there gonna be enough parking?
Yeah, I mean, we meet the, I think we have another 9 or 10 spaces in addition to the requirement, which are 2 spaces per unit. And then there's so many visitor spaces required. We're providing 19 visitor spaces, and I believe there are 10 required, in addition to the 2 spaces per unit.
Last call. Enough for beer. No? All right, what's the commission want to do? Applicant's good, right? All set?
Yep.
Okay.
So this would be essentially a motion to close the public hearing with the intent, if we were to vote with, I would put conditions based on that. Is that correct?
So the intent would be to close the public hearing for now. Yeah, that's the only motion being
All
made
right.
right now. Yep, just close the public hearing.
I will make a motion to close the public
I'll
hearing.
second it.
All right, motion by Matt and seconded by Verga
Yeah,
to close the public hearing.
yes.
Yes, thank you. Okay, we have a vote, please. Oh, can I do a No, I don't. Do I have to? You always tell me we have to.
You don't have to.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? None. Okay, that was unanimous.
Yep.
Excellent, thank you. All right, unfinished business. So we said earlier, sorry, so on the public hearings, 3, 4, 5, and 6 on the, what do we call this? Agenda, right? Agenda, was, all of those are now scheduled for November 20th, 2023.
That's right.
I don't need a motion for that, right? That's good, I don't need a motion for that, right? That's good, yeah, thank you. Unfinished business, special permit, application 23-1314, that public hearing was continued. We are now at special permit application 23-1317 of Canterbury Holdings LLC, 25 Colonial Drive, the one we just discussed for the last hour, planned residential development, section 570, 410.22 low density PRD, section 570 PRD, and 700, et cetera. Got it. So, now, what would the commission like? Because I can't.
To go home?
Because I can't.
Can we discuss, we can still discuss
Make a
this,
motion,
or-
we'll second it, and then we have discussion. So we
I
need
make
a
a motion
motion
to
on the table.
discuss.
No, you have to have a motion on the table to do something, not to discuss. Then we discuss whatever that motion is. And we can always have, you can always do second motion to do additions if you want. Sorry. So,
Yeah, I'm just looking at the correct one here, that's all. So I would like to propose a motion to approve special permit application 23-1317 Canterbury Holdings LLC, Upper Maple Street, with the conditions that were stated previously in our discussion, that the construction and development of the property is to remain undeveloped until such time that Colonial Drive is accepted by the town as a town road. If it is not approved, can we say that the applicant can come back as, or are we allowed to put this in that the applicant can come back to reapply if that's, I don't want them to be stuck if the town road isn't accepted.
It would be up to the commission. You can say the applicant comes back within the, you do not necessarily need to accommodate an application within a year's time unless there's been some change. Now, it is also, you could be willing to say that if he doesn't if say, this is only an example, this isn't a proposal, example only, say that if the road wasn't approved, that he'd be allowed to come back, but he'd have to,
Do something.
do something. Thank you. There'd have to be some sort of change in the application.
Right,
So
okay.
you're not necessarily gonna deny, because it's up to the commission not to see if you were willing to accommodate or the same application within the year.
Okay. So, to approve the conditions of Colonial Drive becoming a town road, and that in the event that it is approved, that the owner submits the previously stated agreements to the town of open space and preservation, the road maintenance agreement, the HOA agreement, I believe this is the town and HOA agreement for the maintenance of the retention pond and water runoff, and then the agreement with Connecticut Water. No, that was long-winded, but.
No, you're fabulous.
Think you covered it. I'll second the motion.
all right, we have a motion, we have a second. Do we have any discussion?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Does that mean that we approve this project that's going to be built with a homeowners association agreement, and we're not gonna get a look at that homeowners association agreement before allowing this to go forward? Or is that something that falls out of our authority?
Usually it's something that is reviewed by staff, and if staff has a question, then we send it to legal counsel. If something's not clear, that we feel that they have not done something that we feel that the Water Commission would like to see, then we review it with legal.
Couldn't we have a legal, an attorney look at it or something? To
That's
make
what I'm
sure that
saying.
it-
We can,
So,
yeah.
so that's what you're implying, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So I think what Matt said is that those agreements need to be submitted to and approved by the town
Okay.
as part of his
All right.
condition. Any other discussion?
So are staff going to make sure that things are moving along? Or it's up to them to come to you to say,
Well,
we've
first
met?
off, nothing's gonna happen unless Colonial Drive gets accepted. So I'm sure once Colonial Drive, that'll give them enough time to put all these agreements or tentative agreements, not that they're gonna put them in place, but to prepare them. And then we can send it to council to make sure that seems to be, it's written appropriately.
Okay. So that's the roadmap.
That's the roadmap.
Okay.
But again, our town council, our town attorney is not gonna write the agreement for them. They're only gonna review it, and that's it.
And make recommendations. I'd like to ask a question for clarification, among us. I went at it the wrong way earlier when I referred to cluster developments. But in our language that covers this, it does refer to this as a cluster development type. So therefore, my question is, there's a formula with cluster developments for how many units can go on a piece of property. Is there any such thing that governs this?
Yes. Yes,
It's
we
in
have,
the planned
we have a
residential.
formula in the PRD for this. It's
Oh, there-
5 units per acre. So it's met.
5 units?
Five units per acre, It calcs out to like 32.7, which is why this development's at 32.
It differs by the zone.
Differs by the zone, correct.
Okay, all right, okay, thank you.
I just got a couple general comments for the commission to consider. So number one is, I have an issue with the open space. I don't believe the open space that we're getting, is the intent, meeting the intent of what we're asking for in open space under this type of development. And secondly, I don't think the applicant has done an adequate job in demonstrating compliance with 570.3C, which if you look at, they must satisfy 3 of the 6 conditions, so, that's my opinion.
So that would mean that at least 3 out of the 6 have to happen.
The rules, the commission must find that the development meets at least 3 of the 6 conditions to satisfy the PRD development.
And is there a timeline on that?
Yeah, part of the application, so. So those would be my comments for the commission to consider. Any else, any other discussions?
I mean, as part of the approval for the open space provision, if you're not, and this is just your opinion on it, which is fine, is there something that we could put in as a requirement for revised open space layout, even if they maintain the same amount of units, to address potentially your concerns with the actual layout of the open space, even if the numbers stay exactly the same?
I don't think so, because it'd be a revised plan, it'd have to come back in front of us.
Okay.
So. Any other discussion? No? Okay, roll call, please.
All right, just restate
Nope.
them.
Restate what? The motion?
Well, yeah.
Oh, so you have a motion to approve with, I didn't write it down, following conditions.
Yeah.
One is that Colonial Drive must be accepted by the town. So Colonial Drive must be upgraded and accepted by the town as a public road prior to this development moving forward. That 5 agreements must be submitted to the town and reviewed and approved and accepted by the town, which is the HOA, the town agreement for the pond cleaning, Connecticut Water, agreement to own and maintain after 10 years. I'm sorry, they're gonna maintain up to 10 years and then own after 10. The open space preservation agreement, the resident advisory that's on the rules, and the roadway agreement, and did I say HOA already?
No.
Those 5. All right? I think, yeah,
Yeah.
right, and that's,
And
those are the
so-
only conditions you had.
Yeah, those are them.
And so if even one of those is not met, then this thing is not,
Well, those are just 5 agreements they need to provide and that they reviewed and accepted by the town. So again, we don't write them, they write them, the legal just looks at them to make sure that they meet our standards. That's what's written in the rules.
so I don't know how to phrase, this is what has to happen. And if these don't happen, then there's no forward motion.
Well, it's part of it's condition of approval, so
Yeah.
they have to meet those
submit
conditions.
things.
Yeah.
Well,
okay.
if you wish, as far as the agreements go, staff's willing to keep you informed of when we've got the agreements, that we've sent it out to legal, legal sent back their letter, and we can request a letter and see what legal says.
But,
And as far as the road, there'd be a motion from the town council that it's either been accepted or unaccepted, and Dave's not gonna bring it before the town council until it gets constructed in the proper manner that it's supposed to be done. So,
okay, so we've laid out everything that is important to us. And if there's any wavering on the part of other parties, then it's null and void, right?
Well, it just can't move forward.
Yeah.
Right,
Okay,
so.
right.
if there's an issue with one of the agreements, then the agreement has to be corrected before they can move forward.
Right,
Or they can't even move forward if the town never accepts the road, they can't move forward.
okay. So that's what we're determining is how the game is played.
Right.
Okay. Did you make the motion? You need a second?
No, he made
You are,
it.
no,
Yeah.
so,
And he made it, you seconded it.
Yeah.
yeah, so
Or John
this will
seconded
be
it. Somebody seconded it.
we will be voting on this. You'll
Okay.
say yes or no, basically.
Right, unless there's more discussion.
Unless there's an amendment made to what I said.
Correct. So we're good? You would need a minute, Matt?
Yeah, I'm just double checking these real quick here.
Okay.
Yeah, that's, I'm good.
Good?
Yep.
All right. Now we're ready for roll call.
Okay, just a clarification that it is the developer that's gonna be, from what I understand, it is the developer that's gonna be doing the improvements and be dealing with Dave to do the improvements to Colonial Drive, am I correct?
No.
Oh, it's the
That
prior owner?
The prior developer,
Okay.
not this developer, prior developer, whoever Dave is working with on Colonial Drive needs to get it done. All right. Now, the private developer wants to step in and pay for that development, that's a different story, but Colonial Drive has to be accepted by the town.
All right.
Before this project moves forward.
I just wanted to clarify, because
All right.
something got mixed up. Yes, very confusing. All right, John Sarantopoulos,
Yes.
Verga,
Yes.
Matthew,
Yes?
Michael,
No.
Brian?
No.
Okay, we've got 3 yeses and 2 nos.
Motion passes. Okay. We are at Subdivision application 23-1319, Kathy A. Hess, Bruce and Brenda Weeks, landowners, 2 Weeks Lane, JS map 108, lot 30.1, 1.06 acres. Alexander's Lake zoning overlay district, or Alzad overlay district, to subdivide lot 30.1 into 2 parcels. Also, a lot line adjustment between lot 30 and lot 30.1 will be necessary to create a conforming lot. Continued.
Okay,
from
this is,
9/18.
I'm gonna do a little bit of a comment on this one first, before the applicant even comes up. Originally, what was going to happen, can everybody see the map that you have in your hands for this? It's a single-page map.
Mm-hmm.
Jonathan, can you bring it up?
Single pages for the
It's hiding all the way in the back.
All the way in the back?
It's, yeah, it's one little page that looks like this. Like, you wouldn't even notice it. Is that it? Yeah, that's it.
Yep, that's it. Okay. When this first came to us, the applicant. It'll be easier as everybody can see it on the screen.
No, it's okay, I'm sure it's here somewhere. I mean, I
Okay.
didn't eat it for dinner.
This is, there we go. There we go. All right, originally what was going to happen, what Ms. Hess was going to do, because she was talking to Bruce and Brenda Weeks, she was gonna buy the land underneath her cottage, which is the building that says, number 2 on it. Okay, Jonathan, can you just bring the arrow to it? There, right there. She was gonna buy some land underneath there, and then she was gonna buy the land where her well is
Yeah, I think I
located,
have
which
it,
is
I just don't
the
know
square
where it
but
is.
underneath. Okay, long story short, when she realized, she was still under the impression by the Mr. and Mrs. Weeks that they could sell the land to her underneath her cottage. She came to find out through no fault of her own that that property under her cottage was in an irrevocable trust, which meant that that could not be sold out or separated, okay? So what they are doing, although Mr. and Mrs. Weeks do own the other property, I'm gonna say to the south of her, they do own that, and they're willing to sell her that portion of the property that has her well on it, to protect her well, to allow her access to her own well. Okay, so, that's what's happening. So they're proposing that they're gonna sell to her approximately 6,128 square feet. And that property contains her well. And that they own themselves privately, so they can do that to her. So what would happen is that the property underneath her house is still quote-unquote property that she leases. However, she would own her side yard, because that's the yard that has the well that goes to her house. Okay? Also in your also along with this map is an email that we got from our town attorney, which states that we should only allow this kind of division when the new lot pertains to an existing non-conforming residence, which the house is, and it has a well on a different parcel of land, and not allow for the creation of a new building lot with new dwellings. Those would have to comply with the underlying zone. Because the 6,000 square feet complies with the Alzad regulations, but not the underlying zone regulations, what she's buying is not buildable. All it is giving her a side yard that she would own that contains her well. So that's what's happening. It's the protection of her wellhead is what she's doing.
So there's no way they can add a cottage on this lot.
Underneath, from what our town attorney has told us, underneath the regulations, she cannot.
So there would, do you see any compelling reason to not allow that to happen? Since it's really not our business?
Well, I'm gonna say this, she's protecting her own water, right? She's protecting her well.
Yep.
So, as a planner, to me, that makes sense. But it's up to the, up to the commission.
So,
It's,
where I'm confused now is the attorney said by placing the dwelling on its own parcel, it reduces the nonconformity, but we're not placing a dwelling on its own parcel. We're placing the well
That
on
was
its own
one of-
parcel.
Yeah, so that was one of the original asks, prior to learning about the irrevocable trust. So that the irrevocable trust prevents the division of the parcel where her cottage currently sits.
Understood, but does the attorney understand that? 'Cause
he understands.
The way he wrote it, that sounds
No.
like
But he
different.
wrote this in the beginning when we thought she could buy the property underneath underneath the house. Now, remember, all the properties around here, it's leased.
Right.
It's leased, and they own the house, but they don't own it, they lease the land. I talked to him afterwards, and I explained to him, I said, she can't buy the land underneath her house because it's an irrevocable trust. I said, can she still buy, quote unquote, we're referring it to her as her side yard? And he said, yes, but she can't build.
But the irrevocable trust is owned by a family.
Right.
And what possibility, do they have the right to accommodate this person?
No, they don't, because it's the way the trust is written. It's called an irrevocable trust, so you can't change anything within the trust. So if the trust owns all the land, you can't sell off property that the real estate that the trust owns. So, what she's doing is it's allowing her to protect her well.
Are we creating another non-conforming lot though, by doing this?
From what I gather from this, it would be something that would go along with her house when she goes to sell her house. This would go along with it. I have, the attorney has not said anything to me about that. So, but if you want more clarification on that, I can always-
It's just because it's different than what he wrote, that's why I'm questioning.
Yeah.
I mean, what he wrote was about, if it was just the house, I understand what he's saying. We're not,
Yeah.
we're not, but we're creating a lot that's non-conforming to the zone, the underlying zone, right? I understand, so they never could build on it, I understand all that, but are we creating an expansion of the non-conforming? The way he wrote it is we were limiting it because we were pulling a lot out of a non-conforming lot, right?
Yeah.
But that's not what we're doing, we're pulling a well.
If you want another legal opinion on this, I can get.
I just want to make sure we're doing it right without, at least me, I want to make sure we're doing it right, not doing something wrong here versus what we have in front of us, that's all.
Are you okay with that, Mrs.?
Well, my concern is the language is very vague, and that makes it very difficult, because even what he replied, there's no written regs. This is a whole new, different area. I don't know.
Understood, but could it be resolved, I'm sorry, but could it be resolved with a perpetual easement to your well? Right? Right, so that owner of the property that's giving you the lot line, they give you a perpetual easement to your well, that goes with your house. I don't know, I mean,
The people who are selling me the land.
Yes.
Approached me on the sale of the land.
Yep.
And said that they would like to sell me some property. Was I interested? And I said, fine.
Understood, but I don't want to get us in a position of creating another non-conforming lot, that's something we shouldn't do, then we set a precedent for other things down the road. So I just want to make sure that the lawyer understands that, and he's giving us the right opinion, and I would even throw out, is there a way to resolve it with a perpetual easement or something to that effect?
I'll verify
Where you
that.
get access to your well, it's your permanent land access, your well, whatever, that goes with that land.
Yeah, they own that.
Okay, so
Right.
It's their own private
it's
property.
their own
It's
private
not part of the
property.
lease.
So it's not part of the lease is what we're looking to get.
No, I understand that, but by carving out that small parcel creates a small lot that doesn't fit zoning. Right?
And that's what we have to check on, because we can't get caught
Right.
in that.
But if they give you a perpetual easement, then that runs with that land. So if they ever sell that private land, that easement's always there, and it's an easement in favor of, I don't know if your house has a deed, but it's in favor, goes with that house. So
Yeah.
it's just another option. I'm just throwing it
Yeah.
out there. So before we do something wrong. So,
Um, If you want to talk again, you really should be coming up to the
yeah,
microphone so
apology.
we know.
Yeah. My tight ship is sunk. So, my tight ship is sunk. Yeah, it's gone. That's all. My opinion, I just want to make sure we get the right legal
Do I
opinion.
have to go up there and ask a question?
Yes, ma'am, I was chastised.
Bad boy. How long?
Huh?
How long will this take?
It won't take long. We'll have the opinion by the next meeting, which will be November 20th.
We would share that with you as soon as we had it, you as the applicant, so you
Yeah.
could make a decision if the attorney is advising an easement, for instance, that said if there's some reason that this wouldn't be able to move forward, you can make the decision whether or not you want to come back or withdraw. That would be up to you, depending on what that legal opinion is.
Okay.
So that's just a motion to continue?
We'll just clarify
It's
that.
not a public
So
hearing, but it was-
continue, we'll just continue this until,
Can I just say that there are all sorts of lawyers, maybe you all know who might be the best person to work on this project?
I can tell you for us, it would be our town attorney, that would be Mr. Slater, Attorney Ken Slater.
Yes,
So
the
he-
applicant could always introduce or propose their own legal opinion as well, and then the town attorney could consider that position based off their own legal opinion.
Okay, I just want reassurance that whatever lawyer gets their fingers on it is going to do a better job than's happened in the past.
No, he will do it, and like I said, it's because the irrevocable trust. And as Brian did make mention, he wrote it when we did not realize that there was an irrevocable trust, so it doesn't hurt to go back and check.
Okay.
Just to clarify what you were saying, what you're saying is if they were to sell this, there would be a separate property that's not within the irrevocable trust, that is outside of that, that's owned by that same property owner, that would create its own separate thing with no dwelling on it? Is that what you're?
That's what, yeah, we're creating a lot that has no dwelling, just as a well.
I got
In
you. Okay.
perpetuity.
I got you.
Well, we're creating a lot, that's what we'd be doing.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I can see what Brian's saying,
Yeah,
we don't want to
I just
create
wanted to
a
clarify.
non-conforming lot, because we don't want to get
Mhm.
in that situation.
Yeah.
I'm like
You need a
Debbie-
motion?
I'm like Debbie Downer. No, I don't think we do. I think it's just continued, right? Do we-
Well, you should have a motion
All
to
right.
continue to 11:20.
Do we have a motion to
I'll give
continue
you a
11:20?
motion to continue.
Thank you, to 11:20. Do we have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Seconded motion to continue to 11:20. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Sorry, ma'am. So don't wait for me in the parking lot. So- All right, new business, subdivision application 231323, Passay Development LLC, applicant landowner, 325 Snake Meadow Road, JS map 254, lot 6, 7.31 acres, rural development, 3-lot subdivision. Receive and schedule for action on Monday, November 20th, 2023.
It's in-house, and it's up to this board if you want to schedule it for action or if you want to schedule it for a public hearing.
It's currently subject to wetlands review as well.
So why does what inland wetlands deal with it first and then
Well,
come?
that's how, in our sequence, they meet earlier in the month, they have to render a decision prior to you
Right.
acting no matter what.
So
Okay.
this would be scheduling it for November 20th. You can't work on it tonight anyways.
Right.
You're only
I have
receiving
no
it tonight.
intention of doing so anyway.
So we're gonna receive and schedule
I would
for
like to make a
action.
motion to receive and schedule subdivision application 23-13, oh no, is that the wrong one?
231323.
1323, yeah.
And are
I'd
we
like to
gonna
receive it and
require a
schedule it
public
for
hearing?
Monday, November 20th.
I'll second the motion.
For action.
For
No-
action.
No public hearing, just
Oh,
action.
No
for action,
public
I'm sorry.
hearing,
Right,
okay.
'cause it's a subdivision. All right, we seconded. Excellent. All right, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstains? Nothing. Excellent. Special permit application 23-1324, John DeLuca, Jack Helfgott, Christine McGannon, Wild LLC landowner, 543 Oregon Road, JS map 262, lot 20, approximately 2.1 acres, General commercial, if the prior zone change request is approved, currently LI, to create a self-storage storage facility to be a fully interior climate control facility, retrofitted to existing building. Section 420.22Q, general commercial self-service storage facilities. We have to stop reading all this stuff. Receive and schedule public hearing Monday, I'm going to say Monday, December 18th, 2023, because the zone change is scheduled for the 20th.
Right.
So, do we want to receive and schedule a public hearing for Monday, December 18th, 2023?
If we have to, we should.
We should. So we make a
Motion to do what we should.
to receive on December 18th,
Right.
2023. Excellent. Bergen makes a motion. We have a second. Second. Second by Matt, not Matt, Mike. It's over there somewhere. It's one of you M's.
One of these two good-looking fellas
One of you
over
two
there.
good fellas. Yeah. It's like twins. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Abstentions. Excellent. All right. Adoption of minutes. Regular meeting minutes, September 18th, 2023. Any comments, corrections, edits, or motion to accept?
Having not reread it, I'm going to make a motion to accept.
Excellent. Motion by Virgo. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mike. Any discussion, edits, corrections? Being none. All right. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Noes?
I abstain.
Abstentions? I didn't get there yet. Matthew abstains. Other miscellaneous, I'm waiting for that motion to adjourn, I'm just waiting for it. Notice to exempt modification, facility modification, 520 Bailey Hill Road, Killing, Connecticut, modification plans are in the planning and development office. We had a letter in our packet. Any comments, questions? There being none. Any questions on the zoning practice of AI writing all our rules? I kind of like that. I'm game. No? Okay, no. Department reports. Jonathan Rand.
Jonathan ran no report.
He's got
from
nothing.
Jonathan.
Excellent.
Like, I'm out of here.
Economic development.
Real quickly, we're going to have 2 National Endowment of the Arts, Our Town Grant kickoff informational sessions at the Killingley Library. The first one's November 8th from 6 to 8. The second one will be November 16th from 12 to 2. It'll explain a little bit more what the grant entails. It's a 2-year grant process. It'll be a public mural, arts and culture programming, and a documentary film capturing the Laotian immigration story that began in the 1980s here in Killingley. Chubby Dog Coffee Shop has signed a lease at 157 Main Street with a spring opening. And after the last P&Z meeting, I went through we were hearing a lot about population and school-age children, and just for economic data, over the last 12 years, we've lost 284 school children enrolled in Killingley Public Schools. So the schools were built for a certain population. We are low on that number. Also, the average size of the Killingley household has been 2.4 for the last 11 years. So there aren't major fluctuations in population. And we're at an all-time low for unemployment in the town of Killingley. This last year, we've been trending lower than the state average at 3.9. So I know you don't make economic decisions, but I wanted to give a kind of a overview of where we are. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Town council.
All right, I'll go quickly. There was a public hearing for residential and commercial alarms. The town council approved it, Chapter 11 alarm ordinance. People will be notified monthly as opposed to after each false alarm, because the reports are only given from the state police monthly. So they'll receive their false alarm reports every month, and they do have a maximum number of alarms before they have to start paying a fine. The Board of Education will be returning a balance of $1,321,000.
Dollars?
Yeah, $321,963.
Giving it back?
Yes, returning to the general fund.
Oh my gosh.
I think last year was 3.6 million.
So is that going to affect the mill rate?
No,
No.
town will
No.
spend it.
No, it goes back into a.
It goes back into the general fund.
Can't catch a break.
And I think what was it, last year or the year before, the money that got turned back went into our roads, our public roads.
Paving your roads.
That's what's paving your roads.
We use,
I'm the one that doesn't want my road paved.
No, but.
And it officially
But your
can't.
main roads, but the main roads and
They
whatever,
are
so.
gonna pave your roads. so-
No, they can't, they can't.
And put streetlights. Anything else?
The Owen Bell dredging project is on hold until next year because of the Army Corps of Engineers. We're still waiting for them. Owen Bell baseball field that needs infield reconstruction, which will run about $35,000 to $45,000. That field will be done later. The Reynolds Street Sewer main and box culvert replacement project is on the works. The culvert is due to deliver it in the middle of November and should be replaced this year. They're working on the bridges of Valley Road over Mashantuck. The town is looking at transparency software with financial data that will be posted on the town's website. The town is looking at a new and different website platform that's easier to navigate. They're looking for an America 250 Connecticut Commission for the 250 anniversary of the United States. The Cotton Bridge Road will be funded through the federal and state with no municipal funding. They're supposed to start working on the Attawagan Crossing, maybe push forward if we have a lot of rain. And there will be a public hearing November for ARPA funding to help Maple Courts 2 congregate housing to have some work done on their elevator.
Excellent. Any questions? Nope. Thank you. Matt, time to shine.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Abstentions, noes, anyone?